Yeah, this is fine, I guess. This is pretty fun.
This is sick.
Gilded Goose into Oko is pretty cool, I guess. Turn one Emery with Mox Opal, sure, whatever, I guess. It becomes a joke. Muldrifter becomes a joke. It's all just a disaster. Yeah.
Remember I played against Alan's team in the team event, and he had like a Jessica control deck.
Yep.
If you tell me a deck like that wins the tournament, I'm not gonna be shocked. But I think the deck that is most likely to win the tournament is probably just Blue Red Delver.
Steven and Larry, and we're talking Swish.
Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Talking Swish. Larry here, alongside is my partners, Steven and Dewey. Guys, how are we doing?
Good, man. Doing good.
Quite well.
That's good. I know it's going to be an exciting week. We're going to be talking about some ban lists, some alchemy, some of the big impacts that Modern is going to have in the next few weeks. It's going to be huge. And that's all in due time. We're ever going to have a moment of silence for some of the greatest cards ever printed that we're going to be losing.
Yeah.
But before that, let's talk about what we did over the weekend. You guys did a tournament this weekend.
We did indeed. Funny enough, Dewey and I actually played against each other in the tournament we did this weekend, and it was also on stream. I barely beat Dewey. We played a 75-card mirror, and it was my third mirror match in a row. I played the Orzhov mid-range mirror 3 rounds in a row, and I should actually have an article up tomorrow evening. If it's already typed up, but I got to just kind of get the formatting and stuff finished up on it. But anyway, got an article about why we both chose Orzhov and kind of some ways that I think we misbuilt the deck, or I misbuilt the deck because I was the one who built the deck and then just gave it to Dewey. But I think it's a lot better now. I'm like rank 1300 right now, or was rank 1300 at the end of the day today, and depending on if I play Arena tomorrow or not, hopefully I can get pretty high, and I'll probably keep playing Orzhov. But deck was good. Neither of us did particularly well in the event. I think Dewey can talk a little more about it in a second, but I think he scrubbed out at 1-3. I scrubbed out at 2-2. But it was a good learning experience nonetheless, and I'm excited for the next Alchemy event I play, and I think I'm going to be better prepared for that one, hopefully. So pretty excited about that. And also for any of our listeners, Legends of Arceus comes out in 2 days, and we're going to be doing a special stream with Eli on Friday. That's going to be really fun, and I'm really excited for that. But it's kind of what's going on right now. We're also going to be doing some giveaways, I think, on Friday, Eli and I, but we still need to work out 100% of the details. Basically, we're giving away shiny Zamazentas to subscribers, I think, so that hopefully will generate some traffic Friday. It's going to be a fun day.
Sweet.
But
No, that should be a good time. The new Pokemon game is going to be hype. It's kind of like a little transition where it's going to be more of a gameplay like Zelda Breath of the Wild was. Instead of the typical formatting that the Pokemon games usually follow. So it's going to be cool that they're going out their realm. I don't even think it's fair to compare those games, like the new Pokemon with the older ones, because I feel like it's its own entity essentially.
It is, 100%.
Which I think a lot of people that are very hard on the game and negative about it, it's because they're comparing it to something that's not comparable.
Right. Yeah.
And I think the game is going to be hot. There's already
it
gameplay.
Awesome, dude. I've tried to not spoil it for myself, so I haven't read or looked at too much, but I have, I've seen a video or two kind of talking about what's going on or whatever. It sounds awesome. I think I'm going to really love it. So I'm very, very excited for Friday.
Yeah, I went and watched a few of the preview people that got early access to go ahead and do a little bit of gameplay. I got to see how the Pokemon battling, how the Pokemon could just run up and attack the trainers essentially, which is kind of cool. Which that's some realistic stuff you don't see in the shows. Like, why couldn't Ash just get bodied real quick when he's just walking? But the game should be sweet. Like the stream, I think a lot of people are gonna be streaming it Friday, so it'd be expected.
Yeah.
It'd be cool. You're gonna do some giveaways. Can I win? Can I win some shinies?
Nope.
Nope. They're not for you.
Such a hater. Now, when I get access to your Switch next, I'm gonna delete all your information.
Oh my
So
god.
messed up.
I'd be so pissed. Dude.
And then you'll
It's
think back.
Literally over 1,000 hours of.
And when you got to restart, you're gonna think like I should have just gave him the shiny.
Yeah. All right.
No, absolutely not.
But yeah, you guys played over the weekend. Steven, you talk all humble about it like it was close match, but when you first met you, you're like, yeah, I bodied Duy. I was like,
No, it was
man,
really close.
that's
I
so
with
brutal.
2 minutes left on the clock in a game 3. It was really tight.
Mm-hmm.
It was really tight.
Yeah, it was a good match. I think like one of the games though, like I think only one of the 3 were really close if I remember correctly. Like
game 3 was really close. My favorite thing about the match, Dewey, was I put you on the play in game 2, and then you put me on the play in game 3. It's just hilarious. It's the classic.
I wish you guys would have been on coverage, because people in the chat were going to be like, that's never correct. Yeah. That is wrong. You never take the draw in Magic.
Not until it absolutely is correct.
Oh, I agree. But you know how a lot of you get a lot of these newer players that don't play to a competitive level where they have to like make these kind of decisions. So on paper it looks incorrect because you usually want to win the die roll. Because what's one of a Magic player's favorite thing to tell people when they didn't have a good tournament? I didn't win many die rolls today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a greater conversation about, like, variance, right? Like, I didn't get enough variance in my way. Like, yeah I mean, that's Magic. That happens. But, like...
Oh, I agree.
There's also, I don't know, how many pros have gone on and go, yeah, I didn't win any die rolls. And you know what? I still made day 2. I still top 16 or still top 8. And I won, 2 die rolls out of the 16 or 15 matches I had.
I've made day 2s of events without winning many die rolls.
Yeah.
Obviously, your gameplay and your planning is a little bit different when you're on the play draw. That's where you got to be better at like knowing what you keep on the draw compared to what you would keep on the play, and that comes with reps. It comes with like take a lot of losing to get to those moments.
And honestly, it also takes like not getting tilted, right? Like how many people do know that like they get like tilted when the fact that they haven't won enough die rolls, and before like. Even like their 5th or 6th match, they're just like pissed about it. Yeah. Right? Like they're so mad. Right. And it just started. And they're in a good spot in the tournament. They're just like, I can't win a die roll. I'm on the play. I'm on the draw all day. Like I can't handle it. Like and they're gonna lose that match because of how pissed they are about the whole thing. So
yeah, it always seems so unnecessary.
Oh yeah. Just. Yeah, I like if it's out of your control, it's out of your control. So like, why get even more pissed about it and add another layer of negativity to it?
Mm-hmm. And I tell people, I was like, if you like the whole die roll being very minimal to the gameplay, go play Flesh and Blood. Like die rolls matter, you go first, but going first isn't actually like that big like compared to Magic. Because both players gets to draw cards back to their full hand at the end of the first turn. So you're not really getting that advantage like you would going second. When I play the aggressive decks in that format, I always go second if I win the die roll. Because there's like no benefit really for me to go first. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like I have to show you the game sometime, Dewey. It's a good time. Like
we really do need to learn it at some point.
Yeah, it'd be a fun game because I want to talk a little bit about Star City's announcement today and some of the reactions I got from it.
Oh, dude, man.
Yeah,
it was the biggest downer ever last night, man. Everybody was talking like their sister just got murdered or something.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, it's crazy, man. Everybody was so depressed.
Oh, I know.
I went on Twitter before I went to sleep, and it's like someone got killed, man.
Yeah, I agree because Ray, our teammate Raymond Perez, was he was messaging our private group chat about that, and I was like, I didn't know what was happening because I was working yesterday, and I was gonna check when I got home, but I was tired. I didn't care enough, so I went to bed. Woke up, and I was like, I'm gonna take a gander at this now. I guess Star City is they're pretty much not gonna pay content creators at this point. They're going to disband all that kind of stuff. They're going to still have content, but they're just not paying the writers, I guess.
Okay.
Is that what they said? I
Like,
thought that they were just restructuring it and moving away from their current model.
yeah, the current model where they have all these like writers writing for like competitive tournament stuff, they're pretty
Yeah.
much all getting fired because they're not going to pay those writers anymore. They can
Yeah.
still write the content for free.
Mhm.
That's pretty much how they were like told. You can still write content, but you won't get paid for it. And I think that's where like the big like issue came from for a lot of players, especially the writers themselves. I I get the So Star City also made a comment about like the business model of like coverage and like content creation for like card games isn't where it was at anymore, which I fail to agree with that.
Yeah,
I
well, it's a very skewed view, right? Because
Yeah.
it's based off of the last 2 years, which
Yeah, that's
there's
a
been this
horrible.
thing called, it's called this thing called the pandemic, and it's impacted everybody, and it
Of
sucks.
course.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, they said that they tried to stick to the model, and it wasn't working because they've been operating at a loss in the content publishing division for the last 2 years, and they said that as a result, they just weren't going to stick with it for the third year at
So,
all.
so my issue with that, and I saw that as well, and that's
Mhm.
what I was kind of preluding to. My big issue with that logic is we have not had paper tournaments, and your content creation is usually going to benefit when there's paper tournaments because those articles. Let's say we had an article from Jerry Thompson. He's like, Ragavan is the card you need to play if you're not playing that
Mhm.
card. And here's sample deck lists of how you can win with your Ragavan.
Right.
Now players are going to be like, hey, I got this upcoming SCG event or this upcoming NRG event. I need to pick these cards up. Jerry Thompson, because they also had them hyperlinked to go and purchase them right off their website.
It did.
And
Yeah.
that's where paper tournaments, when you have these digital tournaments,
Mhm.
people are like, oh, I read this, but I don't need to buy anything additional to this.
Right.
Because
Right.
they have like a tracker to see when people are clicking those hyperlinks from those articles. There's
Of
all
course.
different things
Mhm.
like that they're keeping track of that, and they
Yeah,
probably notice
yeah.
like nobody's really buying these cards from these articles either. And at the same time, there was no paper tournaments. They're starting to come back a little bit. They're starting to do the SCG cons. SCG had one paper tournament. Like, what did they really? I don't know what they really expected to get. It's a pandemic. It sucks for everyone. But
Yeah.
I think their decision was poor. I think getting rid of the coverage is poor. I think honestly everything SCG's been doing has been poor. Just in my opinion.
Unfortunately, yeah. I
Yeah.
can't
From a
really say I
play-
disagree with that.
From a player aspect, this is all coming from that level. I think they've done a shitty job.
Yeah.
I think they're like opposite of what I think Energy is doing. I think Energy is doing an awesome job, where SCG is doing. SCG sees what Wizards is doing and says, "Hold our beer. Maybe we could
Yeah.
take the focus off you and make a worse decision to try to draw the attention back on us," which is
Yeah.
so sad to me because I was hoping that SCG was going to pick up where Wizards was failing. It's crazy to see where competitive Magic is going, like in this MTG arena decade, I guess, or era we can call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mentioned it last time too. Like, Star City is making some really bad decisions, as you guys are saying too, and this articles and release is just leading more to it. But we had talked about it before. The tournament series and also the content creation here is not profitable models. They're not supposed to be. They're not supposed to be profitable models. You either go for a loss or a break even, but you hype up the game, you get players interested, they want to be involved, and they're going to play more, and then they buy your product.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what they do. You became the biggest seller because of this. You
Yep.
had the super popular series that competed directly with Wizards because of how well you did this. And then you're like, oh, you know what? Wizards is dipping out. We could fill this void. We could push content even more. We could grab all the pro players and go, we have the best tournament series and the best content creators on the planet. And instead you're going to be, hey, let's not do that. Let's not capitalize on this. And where does it leave all the players, right? if you keep reducing the reasons why we are here and why we play, and there's nothing to shoot for, and there's no content to read, why will you think people will continue to play this game?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's concerning. It's very concerning for sure.
Yeah. So.
And their new model is like the non-strategy, non-tournament related topics.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what?
Yeah. So my big thing, if they were having an issue, they're like, hey, we're not making the money, we're losing money on this. Let's look over at a different model when it comes to just their content and their articles like model for a second. Let's look at CFB Pro. Yeah, I'm gonna give you an example. You do the $10 a month deal, right, with them?
Yep.
You get access into their paywall. The paywall is down. You get all the articles, all the deck guides, all that good stuff, whether it's Pokemon, Flesh and Blood, Magic. Now, they also send you $10 every month in store credit, where it looks like you think, hey, this is a free subscription now, but it's not, because you're gonna have that credit. You're gonna look at that credit and be like, hey, I might as well put this towards an order, and you're gonna spend cash to go with this. So I think that's what CFB Pro's doing a little bit better. That SCG wasn't taking advantage. CFB seen, or they acknowledged that we were in a pandemic and they needed to change their model up a little bit. Absolutely. So they came out with CFB Pro. Star City Games already had their premium membership. I get that. But they need to change that and go with the times. And it looks like they failed because they tried to stick with what wasn't going to work. And then they're mad because it wasn't going to work, instead of trying to adapt and evolve to a program that would work. Instead, they probably chose the worst way of handling it.
Yep.
And it's crazy. Yeah,
and like their tournament series that they were running leading up to SCG Con last year, from what I could tell, was a very profitable model.
Yeah, the online,
right?
SCG Tour
the
online.
online tournament series that they ran had great attendance, and let's be honest, the prize pool wasn't that great. People were playing it because they wanted to get entered into SCG Con and the Players Tour as a potential, and they wanted to get that invite to the Invitational. So, like, it worked. People showed up, not as much as you wanted. There was a pandemic, it's understandable. But why not repeat that model? Look, and like you said, look at NRG. What are they doing? They still want to do in-person events. They go, hey, things are changing. Let's do more online events. So they push online events, and they're creating 1Ks that you can go. They're reasonably priced. People enter them. People are happy. I don't know.
Do you guys know by chance how many players was in the NRG event over the weekend? I'm just curious for.
I believe it was around 100. Was it 80? It might have been 84. Maybe 100's a little high.
Okay.
Really? I thought it was like 70.
Was it 70? Okay. I might have been a little off.
What was the entry fee? Just curious.
$20.
Okay. So the event panned out. Did they scale the pricing at all, or did they do anything?
No idea.
I don't believe they scaled the pricing.
Okay. I was just curious. With that being said,
real quick.
Yeah. While you're looking it up, SAG was running all those qualifiers, things like that, to get into like the big PTQ on Sundays. They had to make a tremendous amount, because all of them had 100+ players. I feel like.
I was wrong. It was 98 players.
So that's a good turnout.
It's a very good turnout. There were a lot of very good players in the event too. It was pretty high level.
Slightly disappointed the prizes didn't scale at all. Like, they didn't add any pricing with that number of players. But that's not really. I'm not really here to hammer on NRG for what they did. I'm glad they ran an event, and and to be fair, they might have not had it planned, because their last couple like online only events didn't like go over super well. But now with having a PTQ essentially, excuse me, attached to their NRG online series, that's going to help draw attendance. Because there's a lot of players online that ain't going to be able to make it out to like go to a lot of their events, so they're not going to be able to grind that system. By giving them a secondary prize, or let's be real, that's the main prize, with the NRG series probably being secondary prize, the most majority of players. That's going to draw in a whole new attendance base. And that's also going to spread their name out to these players that's going to see the NRG label, and they're going to be like, hey, maybe if I ever get the opportunity, I'll be able to go to one of these events.
Right.
So I'm very excited for what NRG has in the future. But when it comes to SCG, me and Steven are going to be going to SCG Con in a matter of a couple weeks. I believe it's 2 weeks from this Friday is when we're going. I'm curious.
Assuming everything still happens, that is when it's scheduled, right? Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah.
Mentioning it happen, we'll talk about that in a second. But I'm curious to see what their attendance is going to look like with this new SCG Con model. I'm curious to see how just everything is going to happen because.
So here's the thing. I still feel like their attendance is probably going to be pretty high. I'm going to be honest. I don't think they're going to get super punished by this because I still feel like a lot of the more casual people will still show up to these things. And honestly, like as annoyed with all of this as the competitive scene is, you, me, and Zach Allen are all still going. Like.
Yep.
You know, Alan was super upset by the announcement yesterday, but at the end of the day, he's still supporting SCG by going to this event, right? So
I'm taking the opposite route. If there is an SCG event and it's convenient and it's a free weekend for me, I'll go. That's how I'm approaching it now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'd rather support NRG or any other tournament series at this point that are, to me, doing the right by the players.
Yeah.
And I can respect that.
Sure.
I would go to an event too. I mean, if it was convenient for me, I mean, I would probably go. I think I have the reason I can't go is just because of the planning of how it worked out this month for me. So.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm starting to get to the point myself too, where I would almost just stay home every weekend and just grind these online events because the online events can a lot of them can still qualify you for these set championships, which are kind of just basically the Pro Tour now. That's the thing that you like try and get to, right? Like that's the end goal. So like,
yeah, and on top of that, you have like the ones that have like their own pseudo championship series, or you're playing like 1Ks to get queued for like 5Ks and 10Ks.
And the thing is too, you can still, I mean, you know, it's really good for making content for our channel too, which I'm, you know, really into right now. And we're almost to 300 followers now on Twitch, which is awesome.
Love
We had 298 today, so we're two away
Yep.
from 300, which is going to be really nice.
In due time. Talk about the NRG. We're talking about like being convenient. I saw that they made a post actually like yesterday. It was either yesterday or today, hyping the Milwaukee event. Now, how I take that with them hyping an event at this point is that it's going to happen. It'd be kind of weird for them to promote, be like, get registered, because it was all about promoting their registration being open, for them to just cancel, postpone, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It seems like that would be kind of poor taste if you're under the suspicion it's going to be postponed or canceled. So I'm under the impression right now that it's happening. And that's in Milwaukee the week after Philadelphia. God, I'm going to be tired.
God, that's so awkward. I think that that weekend is definitely the first weekend of VGC too. It's just going to be video gaming shit. That's gonna. God,
I'm going to be so tired. So tired.
I know.
I'm going to the NRG. I don't have a choice. I got to do these NRG events. I think it's the only circuit left. And
at least until Canada opens up for us.
We could go across the border.
I thought it was shut down right now because of Omicron.
I don't think it re-shut down. Maybe it did. We'll have to research that after this. I thought it got opened, but I could be wrong. I don't follow.
I thought it was open for non-recreational travel.
This ain't recreational. This is work.
This is work.
I'm like,
this is work.
I could get fired.
Let us in. Let us in. We're working.
Let my people in. We're trying to sling some cardboard.
We've got a Swish or a Twitch channel. We're streaming it. It's for our job. I don't know how well that would go over.
No, wait. It says effective December 15th, 2021. Avoid non-essential travel outside Canada regardless of the vaccination status. Travelers are eligible to enter or return to Canada if they qualify as a fully vaccinated traveler.
Okay.
I'm qualified.
Yeah, it looks like as long as you're yeah, as long as you're fully vaccinated, um, then you're fine.
I'll even get another booster if they want. I don't care.
There is definitely another booster coming.
Oh, I know. I'm expecting. So I just want to get your guys' opinion.
hmm
How many boosters do you guys predict that we're gonna have to take per year?
Yeah,
My goal is, I personally think we're gonna be taking 2 going on probably forever. 2 a year.
I think one. I'm thinking one. I think it's gonna end up being like the flu.
I think
Um,
eventually I could see one, but I feel like we're way off from it being a 1 a year.
It's only because of how new it is they're still
Hmm.
working on it, right? Like, think about how long it took for the first vaccine to be developed
Yep.
by different people, right?
Yep.
And then how quickly the second one came from
Hmm.
that, and they both came to two different solutions to the same problem.
Yep.
After that, we had a third version with a different set of criterias. Now we're on a fourth version or fifth version now too, by the way, that are like
Oh, okay.
accessible by other people. I think like it was Texas came out with a new version that was made it so it could be distributed even further. And now we're getting Omicron came up, and they've already got a pill for it that's getting ready to be released. So I think as this just keeps developing, we're getting faster and faster to respond to it. It is going to be like the flu, where you have it where, for like the US, they go, hey, this is the version of it that we're going to release because we're seeing this variant. It's not that there's not multiple versions of it a year. It's they go, hey, this is the one that's traveling and it's going at this rate. This is the version of the booster we think you should be getting right now because of your region, because of what we see is going on.
Sure.
Makes sense. Um, yeah, I agree with you. I do definitely see can see 1 being the number, but I think for like at least for the next few coming couple, let me phrase that. The next few years, I expect it to be 2 a year.
Yeah, and I could see that until
Yeah.
we kind of like get it down.
Yeah, I was talking about like for the next like couple years, kind of like mindset.
Mhm.
Now, I can definitely see eventually it's gonna be like the flu because I don't know the history of the flu shot. Not gonna pretend
You know
like I
what?
do.
Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong because I'm also thinking about the fact that like Omicron traveled just so fast across the entire country, right? Like it's not
Hmm.
the flu where like you get pockets of it. This is like you get it and then like the entire city's getting a widespread infection.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it's super weird. I don't know. I just know whenever one's available, they come out with a new one, I'll go get it. I have no
yeah,
issue. I'm
yeah.
not. I've never been an anti-vaxxer. Never going to be. Just not my idea of a good time. I like not getting sick. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. It's pretty cool. Or if I get sick, I'd rather not be in the hospital if I could prevent it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how silly is it, in my opinion, to know that you could prevent getting put in the hospital with a serious like virus by just getting a shot, and you just say, "No,
Yeah.
I'm good."
I mean, unfortunately, it is for the individuals that are of that mindset. They are going with it as this isn't real. This is fake.
That's
This whole
wild.
thing is created. It's for another reason. So it's like, if you are of that mindset, then of course you're not going to take this vaccine because you think it's all just a mass conspiracy. So
Yeah,
Wild. Totally wild.
you know,
yeah,
I, I'm gonna become an anti-vaxxer. Well, you don't need to be vaccinated to go hunt Bigfoot. I guess it's cool.
that's true. You
You
don't.
know, but now that we're done talking about the nice little vaccine, talking
hmm
about the downfall of SCG and how they continue, it feels like every week they're trying to dig themselves into a bigger hole. It's like
They should not one up themselves, man.
they have a meeting. They're like, guys, let's come together.
uh-huh.
Hear me out. People were pissed at us last week. What can we do this week to make them even more pissed off?
hmm
Let's do this, man. Boy, oh boy, gotta love it. They keep Twitter entertained, I suppose. They don't entertain me because I don't follow enough online to be doing all that anymore.
Yeah, I made a Twitter finally, but I only jump on like once a week.
Yeah, I don't jump on enough to like follow the drama mainly because it's not worth my time. You know
Right.
how it is. But you know what is worth my time? Talking about some bands and a big
Yeah,
band
yeah.
announcement. So we're gonna jump into this head first. what we're going to do, there's a lot happening. There was some rebalancing of cards, which we knew that was going to eventually happen with how they were pushing Alchemy, how they're pushing Historic being a digital-only format. But we're going to just jump in. Bans come first. We should talk, at least announce the Pauper bans, because that all happened and we didn't really mention those.
Yeah, that's very
So
fair.
let me pull up the Pauper bans really quick, because I believe it was only a couple cards, but I just want to make sure I get this.
It was 3 cards, I believe.
Yep, I got it pulled up. So let's start with Pauper. We're not going to do a big breakdown because none of us play Pauper here. We're not going to be the best people to give any explanations for it. If you want explanations, you can go read the article that this ban announcement was made. You can go find your nice little Pauper Discords and Facebook groups. Any of them will have more information that we can provide. But what I can provide is the 3 cards. The first one was a Tog, which, for those that don't know what a Tog does, it's 1 in a red, has a 0 ability. Man, I gotta read this. This is a lot of text. +2/+2 until end of turn. Each time you would use this ability, you must choose one of your artifacts in play and place it into your graveyard. This artifact cannot be one that is already on its way to the graveyard, and artifact creatures killed this way may not be regenerated.
Are you reading like the old text?
Yes, that's the one that popped up when I highlighted it.
Oh, that's funny. Sack an artifact, get +2/+2.
Yeah, this one had a lot of text on it. Bear with me.
God dang it, man.
Hey, that's what the text says.
Funny.
Yeah, cost. Sacrifice an artifact. Effect. +2/+2 until the end of turn.
My way was better.
I just like one quick second. I do appreciate that they always had to state that kind of thing with sacrifice. Like, you can't sacrifice something that's sacrificing. You can't sacrifice something that was like already destroyed, but it hasn't got like. They had to add all this because they like the rules were so unclear on how sacrificing worked.
Yep. The others was Bonder's Ornament. It was a 3 generic artifact that had tap, add 1 mana of any color. It also had 4 generic tap. Each player who controls a permanent named Bonder's Ornament draws a card. Sweet card. Don't know what it was played in, but it was sweet.
I believe both of these cards were for Tron.
Okay, makes sense. And then we have Prophetic Prism, 2 generic artifact. When there's the battlefield, you draw a card, and then it has 1 tap to filter for any color. It's like everybody was saying this is just some Astrolabe for 1 more mana, which it essentially is.
Right.
Instead of being Snowland, they said 2 mana. And it looks like an article was written by Gavin Verhey, who I believe is a part of the Pauper panel, or it's the one that was announced in the Pauper panel, one of the 2.
Yeah, he is on the Pauper panel.
Here, there's the Pauper panel for those that are curious. Is Alex Ullman, Alexandre Weber, Emma Partlow, Gavin Verhey. So, yep, what was that? Mirko Ciavata, Paige Smith, and I'm not going to try to pronounce that first name, but last name Sato. That first name, I don't want to butcher it that bad. That would be so brutal if I tried.
Okay, that's fine.
But yeah, those are the Pauper bands. I don't know what was like dominating. I'm assuming Affinity and Tron was good if they attacked it.
Yeah.
But again, I don't play the format. I haven't played Pauper in quite a long time. And I don't expect us to do a Pauper episode anytime soon until we start actually playing. But
I will say the one thing I like about the article is that they talked about the reasoning. They talk about why the interactions, and they also talk about things like unbannings, which I find like I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
I agree. Now, with the whole Pauper bans, what I really want to talk about, I like the panel idea. It's a designated amount of players as full focus is on that one format to make sure that format is healthy, enjoyable, playable, and it has a good meta. And I really feel like this is the test panel to see if this kind of formula works, Because if this formula works, I think they're going to give one for each format, and that would be awesome.
Right. The only thing I worry about, so like Gavin's an employee for Wizards, right?
Sure.
But the other 6 are not, correct?
I believe so. The only one that I recognize the name is Emma Partlow.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize
Like,
that name.
Yeah, that's the only thing is the concern on having like personal gain or like advantages as a result of it. I don't feel like that can be the case. You're kind of like being brought in to give your thoughts, and then I would imagine you give your recommendation, and then they go from there. But like that's just the thought. I do love the idea of a panel, and numerous other games often bring in the best of their best on competitive formats or the best of the best on like video games to help it rebalance, help it figure it out, and it's almost always successful.
Yep. And now we're going to jump into the January 25th, 2022 edition. The guys in this podcast along with me ain't going to hear this, but in a moment we're going to take a moment of silence for one of the strongest Magic cards to ever be printed. This is up here with the power level of Oko Thief of Crowns, Euro, and many others. But that is Divide by Zero, guys. It is officially the same power level as Oko. So, we had to take a moment of silence for our Lord and Savior Divide by Zero.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it was just the funniest card on the ban list because they pretty much banned Unsummon.
Like no, but okay.
Yeah, bro. So here's there are some formats where this card wouldn't have been totally ridiculous, but it's just like an there were a lot of problems with Standard, and Divide by Zero wasn't even really the main one. But the issue with Divide by Zero is it paired so well with Liar and all the other busted blue cards that were in this format, which is why the Standard ban is just a bunch of blue cards, right? I mean, it's just like a bunch of blue. Was it all blue cards? Actually,
No,
were there
was.
I mean, it was blue as far as things that had color.
Yeah.
And then Faceless Haven, which is kind of like the cover ban because they didn't want the aggro decks to just take over the format now.
Right.
Primarily mono green, based on the
mono
article.
Mono white. I think
And
mono
mono
white
white.
would still be very good. Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I always saw them talk about mono green, so I must have skimmed over. Like I said, I skimmed the article. I didn't like read it verbatim all the way through.
Fair.
But no, let's just go through and name all. They banned something. They had a Standard ban announcement. They did All Runs Epiphany, Divide by Zero, Faceless Haven. All Runs Epiphany, I think, was the obvious one. The Standard was going to get a ban. I thought that was like at the top of the list.
Yeah.
So definitely not sad to see that go. Divide by Zero still cracks me up. Just it's when the card first came out, when it's in the set. That's not, if you had to like look at all the cards of that set, and somebody told you this is going to be the card that's banned out of this set when it comes out, you would think they a damn fool.
Yeah. And to be fair, honestly, if there was no Liar in this format, or if Hullbreaker Horror was not as ridiculous as it is, they probably should not ban this card. Like, I think this is like a safety ban or whatever. It's like probably them just making sure that they are nerfing the blue-red deck forever, and you like have to do something else, right? Because people are just so sick of the blue-red deck. I mean, it's been blue-red for what, like 4 months? Like it's just blue-red has just been the best thing in Standard since we went to the Invitational. And it's still just the best thing in Standard. And I don't know. When did we go to the Invitational? Like 2-3 months ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I wanted to just read a little snippet from this article. It's saying something that's very similar to what Steven was. So what we have here is, let me just get to where the beginning of their statement, because it's all talking about the cards that Steven was. And that's here. The ability of Divide by Zero to cover a variety of angles of attack frequently gives these decks enough time to enact and protect a powerful endgame soft lock state, often used in Liar, Disciple of the Drowned, or Hullbreaker Horror.
Yep.
Therefore, we're choosing to ban Divide by Zero to make blue control decks less effective against other mid-speed and slow decks and force them to be more intentional about what threats they choose to prepare for.
Yeah.
Which, very similar to what you were just saying, Steven, where the 2 cards that they mentioned is the 2 cards that you mentioned. And obviously that came from you playing Standard. I haven't actually touched hardly any Standard. I've got to watch you guys jam a ton of Standard getting ready for the Invitational, so that's where most of my Standard knowledge comes from. I did get to play a lot at SCG Con, but it wasn't enough to really give an idea like what should be banned. I knew something probably outside of All Runs Epiphany. I think that was the obvious one. But Faceless Haven makes sense as well, right?
It does.
Because you gotta like deal with these. Was it Faceless Haven that was taken out when 2022 was a spoiler? Or did they just ban that other white card? Do you remember, Dewey, when they did the 2022 early event or whatever they were doing?
Sure. You're talking about Book of Exalted Deeds, right?
Yeah, okay, that's what, I didn't know if they banned that or Faceless Haven at that time.
I don't
because I know
remember.
Faceless Haven was that was like the thing that they used. It was when they did that early 2022 Standard event.
I thought it was Faith's Haven because of that interaction. There was no way to deal with it.
Yeah, because I couldn't remember if it was that or Book. I know they need those are the 2 cards that you used, but yeah, Faceless Haven.
Then they banned a Book of Exalted Deeds.
Okay, I just wanted to get clear for
searching it was kind of annoying because you have to go Standard 2022 ban, which is also right now there's a Standard 2022 ban.
Oh, searching that probably had to be super fun. But yeah, getting rid of Faceless Haven, in my opinion, was correct as well. It's going to slow down the aggressive decks. You're gonna make like removal a little bit easier to like be effective against them compared when you do a board wipe and you're like, well, a board wipe ain't good enough because Faceless Haven still kills me.
Right.
Because that's still 4/3 in Standard.
And here's the thing too. The aggro decks still have a man land, so like they don't even. But there's a little more cost to playing those man lands.
This cost is a little bit better for Faceless Haven.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not only that; these lands just have a cost to even play them in your deck because they enter tapped after turn 2. So you have to make a very conscious decision that you're going to, you take away some level of consistency to your deck. And Faceless Haven almost just like never cost you almost anything, right? Like the only times it maybe can screw you is mostly in mono green because they have double green and triple green spells. So like sometimes Faceless Haven early can be an issue, but oftentimes it isn't an issue. And it was oftentimes a benefit because it was a snow land, so it was good with the fight spell in mono green. So. It's a smart ban. Try and make the aggro decks a little less good because that's like the very obvious level 0 thing to do after this ban, right? It's just really like, oh, well, the best deck has just gotten worse. Let's just start running over everybody with aggressive cards. That's always, it's basically a week 1 Standard, and we have learned time and time again, week 1 Standard, you play the aggro deck. Everybody plays the aggro deck. So you better have a good plan for the aggro deck or just be the aggro deck.
Yeah, I agree. Now, based on the Standard ban list, I feel like Mono Black could be an interesting deck to start to mess with.
Yeah, absolutely. Dewey and I were talking about how I kind of want to mess around a little bit, maybe even tomorrow. When do these changes go live on Arena? Do you guys know?
Tomorrow, I believe.
Do you know what time?
Probably around like 4 o'clock. Usually their updates are between like noon and 4 o'clock, typically. Okay. So it's probably around there.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, I can test some Standard tomorrow. But yeah, Larry, kind of on that level of thinking, we're trying to build the black-white deck from Alchemy, but just put it into Standard, just like Standard, because it's not that far off. Like the new version I've been playing is actually mostly Standard legal cards, and the nerf didn't touch it at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've been thinking about that, but yeah, that's the same like idea as Mono Black. It's got a similar game plan, right? You're like a meat hook mid-range grind you out deck, with a ton of value. And then another Another thing that I've been talking a little bit with Raja about is if he likes his green-white deck still, because that deck lost nothing.
That's fair.
And obviously, it was banned to combat the blue-red decks, but now we can move to Abzan, which is what he initially was playing and liked really, really well. But he had to move to Bant to try and combat the other stuff. And he and Harlan both did really, really well at the Invitational in the current or in the busted format. So how good is that deck now? It's probably very good. So I'm considering maybe picking that up as well.
No, that's reasonable. Like, Standard's going to have a lot of room to do some developing, do some brewing. So it'll be very interesting to see what we can come out of it. I don't know if there's any Standard events coming up in the future, but we'll have to definitely...
This weekend.
There's a qualifier this weekend.
Well, there's always challenges on Sunday nights, and those usually fire off. Those are good times. I've played in them. I've done well in a few of them, so...
I mean, they're getting like these 2 set championships like every week, these qualifiers, so it's pretty great.
Yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, we'll go ahead and move along to the next format, and that is Legacy.
Yep.
This format's been needing a shake-up, according to a lot of Legacy players, a lot of very popular Legacy streamers, and with the Legacy like challenges and stuff not firing off consistently, there was a sign that something needed to change. There's a lot of pros and cons to this announcement. Pro, they hit a card that probably should be hit. Con, they probably didn't hit enough. I'm going to give everyone a spoiler. This is another ban announcement where Delver's still going to be the best deck afterwards.
Probably.
But they did ban Ragavan. Ragavan, Nimble, whatever the hell it's called.
Nimble Pilferer.
Ragavan, Monkey is gone. The only way you're playing Monkey in Legacy now is with Karizev. You ain't playing it with this.
You can play with that Haste Monkey, or we can go old school and play the Kurdig.
Not this specific monkey, though.
We could also play the orangutans, dude.
Legacy monkeys.
Oh, yeah.
Steven, can we get you to stream Legacy monkeys on tomorrow?
Oh my god, I am not playing
Legacy monkeys.
Monkeys, dude. Somebody better be giving me a donation if we're playing Legacy monkeys. Better be paying for that league, because that's gonna be an 0-5, but it's...
Whoa. With that kind of negativity, you'll go 0-5.
Alright, fine. Maybe a 1-4.
I'd go 5-0, but I'm sweet. It's cool.
Are you also playing against a bot where someone's giving you his wins?
No, I lose to Sparky. It's cool.
He's playing against Legacy Lost in the Woods.
But no, talking about Ragavan, the main reason that they decided to go and take away with that is because of the snowball early game that you get when Ragavan backed up with cards like Days of Force of Will, and the efficiency of Legacy's card pool. You get a lot of early card advantage and early mana, and you're usually being able to cast a lot of the spells that you hit off the top because Legacy's full of low cost spells like Brainstorm and yada yada. So they decide, hey, we're just going to go ahead and get rid of it. And overall, it was a good call to get rid of Ragavan. And they did have one little snippet at the bottom. Excuse me. We'll be keeping an eye on how the Legacy format continues to evolve in the coming weeks, and we are willing to make further adjustments soon if needed. However, we feel this is a large change, and we would like to see how the metagame adapts before considering if other changes are necessary.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I actually
that's a good note, because the question is Delver still that good? Like, is it still that much far ahead of everything else, or is it more reasonable now? And I think the answer is it will certainly be more reasonable now.
Yep. Because other decks, even though it was like the best deck, there's not a question about that, there were other decks that were competing with it. And as long as they didn't have that turn one Ragavan that didn't go unanswered, these decks were doing kind of fine. So
yeah, I'll be curious. I'm optimistic that maybe the format will be better. At the end of the day, I'm just gonna keep playing Taxes. My plan, because Monkey was bad against Taxes anyway, so I didn't really ever have to worry about it post board against Delver. So I'm gonna have to play the format the exact same way, and so I was lucky. I was playing a deck where Monkey doesn't get through anywho.
Yeah, and the decks I play are going to be unaffected either because I wasn't playing it. So
Yeah, but I do
Well,
understand
Larry.
that. Sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You did say this weekend when you played against Nate, didn't you literally lose to him? Like the one game you lost in the matchup, wasn't it to Monkey Mom?
Well, he misboarded, and I mulliganed, so he was able to get Monkey out there and do its thing against me. Because you're not supposed to keep Monkey in post board against D&T, because the creatures just clog up the board, and it doesn't get through like 90% of the time.
do you keep
Yeah.
it on the play though? At the very
No,
least,
I would. Yeah, man. I used to, and I'm getting this way in Modern now too. And I've started to play against like a lot of like high level players, like on Moto and stuff in Modern as well. And like boarding out Monkey seems to be right, and then you just like play enough games with Monkey where it just like hits that snowball point, or it just like, especially on the play, like what are you gonna do? Block with your mom? Like that's fine with them. And that's like the best like you could swords it too, I guess, but they're also fine with that. But you like have to answer it, and if it's still mana ramp at the end of the day, right? So it still gives you Lotus petals, which are still fairly useful. Um, but I think you are supposed to leave them in on the play at least. But
yeah, it feels like to me that that's the case because you want to just kind of put them in a position of you still have to deal with this. I don't care if you have more answers to it. I don't care if you're going to throw something in front of it. You still need to do it, and I might have interaction for it, so I still might be connecting. So I don't really care.
Yeah, the only issue I have with it, against D&T particularly, a lot of decks, I think I'm leaving it in on the play. It's like, you can't really cast any of D&T stuff. Like, casting a mom, if it works, it's great. But if
Yeah,
you
I feel like
cast
I feel like
anything
that's awesome.
else, if you cast anything else, it's such a liability against D&T. Because if you flicker with that, now it goes right back into my control.
for sure,
I got a creature in play for free.
for sure,
Hmm.
it's
Like,
it's it's definitely a calculated risk. But I think
like
the real the thing that people do not realize about Ragavan still, which is, but I think a lot of like very good players recognize this, but some people still don't quite get just how ridiculous a Lotus Petal is on every
Hmm.
contact. It does not matter if this thing hits any of your spells.
Hmm.
Still, just the mana acceleration is so stupidly good
Yep.
mm-hmm.
that that's good enough. That's like good enough, even if it never hits a spell. But obviously, also oftentimes it also is hitting spells, which is just when it gets totally ridiculous. When I really started to notice like how ridiculous Ragavan was, is like when I was playing these the affinity decks and the hammer decks, and I'm playing against like very good shadow players on Moto and leagues, and they're leaving in these Ragavans on the play, and I couldn't block the Ragavan, and they would like hit my Ornithopters and stuff. Like I thought Ragavan was terrible against Hammer Time, but it turns out no, it's not. It's still just good against Hammer Time because
Yeah.
Hammer Time doesn't want to block with its creatures really at all. You don't want to trade an Esper Sentinel for that,
Right.
and you could, sometimes you have Memnite, but they can just kill it and then start hitting you with Ragavan, and then things just like get really out of control. I don't know. I think the more I played with Monkey, the better it gets, which is like even more ridiculous because I initially thought Ragavan was completely nuts, and it's so good, man. It's just such a strong card. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, yeah, no, I agree. The point here is D&T is definitely still going to be a very, very good call, and the matchup might even be better than it was before for you. I don't know. So
I don't know. They didn't ban Meltdown. That's like my biggest issue, and it's
that's
every
true.
time
Yeah,
every
that is
time
that
I've
is a
lost the
big
Delver with D&T, Yorion D&T, it's always been the Meltdown.
yeah,
Right.
Like nothing else has beat me so far. So
yep.
maybe that should be banned. Meltdown is a very oppressive card, guys. Like,
As an 8 cast player of recent events, I'm down for it.
see, you're on board.
No, I think it's absolutely fine, and I'll probably just go back to playing like blue-green X piles of some sort.
Do you have like a cast fully built at this point?
Yeah, I've had a build for a long time.
Well, I forget. You used to play Were Urza. It can't be far off.
Yeah, I think I spent like $50.
Can we have
Well,
it?
I also randomly bought a bunch of the soul lands because I was bored one day. So like,
You just
I don't
bought
know.
City of Traders because you were bored?
No, not City of Traders.
Oh, I was
The ancient tombs or whatever.
Oh, they don't play cities?
If they do, there's a version that plays like one of.
Okay. When I played the deck, I played two, I believe.
That was because you're on the combo version, right?
No, mine wasn't a combo. It was just like I was playing 8cast before 8cast was really a deck, but I wasn't playing Thoughtcast in the deck. I was playing like Karns in the deck instead.
That's the combo version.
It wasn't really combo though. What was it comboing?
Like that's the version that was playing where you played the thief and then or whatever, and then you echoes and
No,
if you.
no, I wasn't doing
Okay.
no. I won't play ever register echoes. No, not
Okay.
yeah, not this guy. I know. I was
Okay.
literally Steven. It was when we did that team in Iowa. I was literally playing instead of Thoughtcast. I was playing Karns. Because that's the
Oh.
tournament
Okay.
I bodied Andrew because he was on Painter and I
Okay.
had mainboard Karns.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like the version that was playing the Karn or whatnot, they were playing the Echoes package.
Oh yeah, no, I found this was on like one random deck dump at
Okay.
that time, and I was like, oh, this deck's cool. It's playing a one of Urza or whatever. It was playing.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember that. I
Remember, I
remember that.
borrowed the cards from you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember building that.
Yeah. And
Yeah, no, I like. I think Acast is still great, and yeah, I've owned it for a bit now.
yeah.
And but like, I'm just like pursuing my other things too, of like
Yeah.
starting to build some random like the Bant pile, and then I started building like the Bant lands version, and so
Okay.
playing around with all that. But
Nice. But yeah, that's the only legacy band that we got. I'm
Mhm.
curious. We have a legacy event coming a couple weeks over in Philadelphia for the SCG Con event, so we'll see what the results look like for that. That'll be like probably the big first paper scale legacy event.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
so.
So that'll be the nice little test for it. And then lastly, we had a historic ban. For those that didn't catch the joke at the beginning of this because you didn't know the ban list, there was no modern bans. And let's talk about that before we jump into historic. I personally think it's a good call not to ban anything modern. I actually don't think modern's in the spot where it needs a ban.
Agree.
I did predict though when we were doing coverage, like if they were going to ban something, what I thought
Yeah.
they would ban or what they
Yeah.
should ban. If they're going to ban something,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
think they should ban Luris and Yorion because I
Yep.
think they have to go together.
Yep.
I 100% think if Luris goes, Yorion has to go with it.
Yep.
Um,
And yeah, I think we were both talking about. I thought Ragavan could go in modern too if those went, but
I mean, I'm on the camp that I'm happy nothing was banned because I don't think anything really needs to be banned. But I'm pretty sad nothing was unbanned.
so
sure.
I just don't think anything needed to be unbanned or banned right now. I feel like the format is self-healing right now. It's in a great spot. Unbanning puts the risk that it could make it into a bad format from the format where it is right now. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
guaranteed to, but it always has the potential to.
Yeah.
Where if we don't
And
touch it,
certainly,
it'll stay the
Okay.
same.
yeah, it's certainly not a bad format by any means. It's fun. There are a lot of things you can do.
Mhm.
But all of the cards that we were talking about that could or maybe should be banned are certainly the most powerful.
Yes.
There's
I
certainly
do
some
agree.
very, very, Modern Horizons 2 certainly
everything up.
dumped a lot of power into Modern.
hmm
But it's one of those things where everybody feels very powerful, as we talked about.
Yeah.
It pushed the format where everything was kind of like hit a critical point. Um, and I don't like the idea of saying we shouldn't unban anything just because it's a really good format right now. It is a really good format right now. It's enjoyable, and it seems like there's a teetering balance that's going on. But if there are things on that ban list that are worthy of potentially coming off, I think it's still also a reasonable time to unban it and test it out.
Sure.
And I'm always going to be the mindset that I'd rather unban something to test it out a little bit and then reban it. Actually, there was an interesting a Twitter post by Aaron's Forsyth that said that. Are people interested in the idea of something getting unbanned so you can play around with it, even if there is the potential for it to get banned again next
Okay.
month?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think the response to that was, well, a good portion of us just use MTGO anyway, and we use trading services or rental services, so we don't care. Like it doesn't impact us on
That's
our
fair.
dollar level. I know that on a actual tournament, like if we're going to a paper tournament, yeah, there's some monetary investments that are there, but if you're on the unbanned twin camp, you're probably already owning a place and you're just waiting for it to get unleashed. So
Yeah, that is never going to happen, most likely.
I may or may
Is
not
that,
have.
is that the card you wanted unbanned, Dewey? I'm assuming it is.
So I did originally want it. I got to actually a pretty in-depth conversation with some other people about it, and I'm kind of okay with it being banned still. I do, but Birthing Pod and Twin are two cards that I'm like very interested in being unbanned. I know that.
So dude,
I know, I know.
man, Birthing Pod, like I love Birthing Pod, dude. But I don't know that should actually be unbanned. Like if I'm being unbiased,
No,
like
I know.
Phyrexian Mana is egregious.
Yeah, and
they
I
should have
get
never
that.
put Phyrexian Mana on any card to begin with. It's just I don't know. It's just like I love Birthing Pod, and I would also. But can you imagine how good Yawgmoth would be if they had Birthing Pod in that deck too?
Oh
Like,
my
give me a break.
god.
That deck's
Oh
already
my
so
god.
No, like I said,
That sounds awesome.
immediately where it goes, right? It goes.
Oh, I
in that
agree.
deck. That's a
100%,
great deck.
100% right in the Yogg deck, and it's gonna be different. You're gonna go more toolboxy because you have access to everything you want. You don't have to lean on chance, and you don't have to pay a ridiculous amount of mana. I know.
That's
I get
already
it.
like very good and very consistent.
Yeah.
I don't want that deck, that Birthing Pod at all. That
No.
would be just ridiculous. The deck's already like super good. It certainly does not need that crap.
Yeah, and then it just like puts a hammer on what you can really print like creature wise, because that's what Birthing Pod did.
I hate the argument. It's a bad argument. It's such a bad argument. You shouldn't print other spells because I can draw cards. I can manipulate my deck. I can flip the top of it. Like, that logic is just literally saying I shouldn't print cards because other cards exist already, and that means that these other cards might be a little too strong. Like, come on.
Sure. That's fine. My argument for Birthing Pod not getting unbanned is Phyrexian Mana is terrible and should have never existed to begin with. Yeah. So realistically, it's possible none of them should be allowed, but some of them are, whatever. But that mechanic is a joke. It's terrible. No. Phyrexian Mana is unacceptable. Right. And then the fact that one of the kind of sleeper really good decks in Modern right now is the Yawgmoth deck, and that deck just gets so much better if you throw your Birthing Pod in it, and it's already like more consistent than I would even like a creature combo deck to be. So it's like, it's, I don't know. I think it would be maybe not great at the moment unless something else was not, if Yawgmoth wasn't in the format or something, maybe it would be okay. But it's just such a good card, man. And Phyrexian Mana is so stupid.
Yeah, because it's pretty much a card that could be in any colored deck.
Yeah, it can be in any deck.
Yeah, so
and that's. In any deck. I mean, at standard, it was in a red-black deck. It was in a blue-black deck.
Mm-hmm.
It was in a bunch of like mono-black splash second color zombie decks that would like play Geralf's Messenger and then pod Messenger into Falconwrath Aristocrat, which is just not what they envisioned when they printed Birthing Pod. I'm sure is that the black-red deck would be tutoring out flying hasters to murder their opponent and getting multiple undie triggers on Messenger, and then you were like metamorphing your Messenger to pod that. It's like it's a lot of nonsense, dude. But anyway,
so
just another example of Phyrexian Mana being stupid was Phyrexian Metamorph 2. So it's
Yeah, no, and I totally respect that, and I know that Phyrexian Mana is dumb. There's a lot of dumb cards with it, and I know the power of it. Of that, and I totally agree with that. But my thing is, there's a lot of cards that I feel like that are on the ban list were banned in a very different time.
Sure.
And as we discussed a little bit ago, MH2 pushed the power level of everything up quite a bit. We have access to more removal and interaction than we've ever had before. A lot of different decks have gained access to different ways to stop other interactions as a result. So that's where I'm like, hey, these things are potential. So
yeah.
It would probably be pretty dangerous in elemental shells too, having access to Birthing Pod.
No, that'd be pretty funny.
Yeah,
it would be very entertaining.
Voice of Resurgence all of a sudden becomes like a playable card, and you just like pod Voice into Risen Reef and start doing a bunch of nonsense. Can pod Risen Reef into Omnath if we want to, just like tons of nonsense. Pod Omnath into either Solitude or Fury.
Mm-hmm. No, and like I said, I get it, but Saffron also agrees with me that, for the record, that Birthing Pod are one of the things that should potentially just be unbanned.
Look, I'm not going to be sad about it. If anyone ever unbans Birthing Pod, I'm immediately playing it. I don't care. Yeah. I'm telling you why I believe it should probably stay on. It's because Phyrexian Mana. That's the main one. Phyrexian Mana is ridiculous.
Right.
That's like the main reason. but I mean, the card is one of the most fun cards that's literally ever been printed to play. Like
Right.
I always try to force it in cubes, even though it's completely wrong, just because I want to play the card. Like
This is
it's
a very dumb.
very fun card to play.
This is a very dumb reason. I'm sure you'll probably disagree with me on this part, but there's another reason why I also really like the idea of Birthing Pod being unbanned. It's 4 mana, and it's not below 3, so you can't play it in a Luris deck. So then more people would play non-Luris decks.
Oh,
Then you just play it, bro. They just play it in Kahira decks. Like it's not you play it with Kahira, dude. It's so easy. Play it in Yawgmoth. That's the terrible reason. What?
No, I know, but no, like I think there's other decks that just aren't being played because Birthing Pod doesn't have access.
I mean, realistically, here's a new archetype. Like the Kiki deck would like be way better. Like if Pod existed,
maybe.
I think that'd be a sweet one to put it in, man.
Yeah, but we're talking we're going back to like your 3 to 4 color Kiki Pod decks. Yeah, but those decks also have the issue of it's fragile to removal. It was fragile to removal back then, and we have better removal than ever. And we have removal that can hit artifacts. You're going to be playing Mana Dork so you can have a turn 2 Pod, and your opponent goes Abrade. They blow it up. They get rid of your Dork. You've got access to Prismatic Ending to get rid of all those things. Keep things off the table so that they can't activate their Pod.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was gonna say it's a little sad that if Pod exists, that ending Pod's kind of a nightmare. Kind of a pain in the ass to like ending that because it's 4 color, right?
It's 4 mana.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm talking about potting. I'm talking about ending the Dork.
Yeah, I'm just looking at like some of the best removal spells that we have in the format to like deal with permanents, and that if Pod was legal, that like not being able to get that off the table originally would kind of be annoying. But
right, but I believe every color has a great way to deal with it.
It would be cool for Pod to exist for the Kiki archetype specifically. Would it be playable? Maybe there'd be a lot of ways to build it. It would be cool, but unfortunately, what would happen is Yawgmoth would just get so much better, and that's like the big problem with Birthing Pod right now is there's already a very good creature combo deck that would just work beautifully with Birthing Pod, and then obviously, like I said, Phyrexian Mana sucks. But the big problem is Yawgmoth just gets a huge buff.
Yeah, but it does
not need a buff. It's already like quite good.
I get that, but it's also a deck that is susceptible to 1 removal. You get tons of chances to respond to it, so it's not like you just win on the spot. The combo is completely stopped by the graveyard getting exiled, and you can't putting things in there.
You have to have it doesn't get really stopped from 1 exile effect if the player is good. If the player
if you have a Ley Line of the Void, the combo's done.
Sure, yeah. Poet's board, yeah.
Yeah.
But the deck does the problem. So I think that's a big misconception with the Yawgmoth deck, by the way, is that hitting their graveyard just beats them. That's really not.
I'm just saying it stops the combo. I know it
stops the combo, but that deck doesn't need to combo kill you like at all. It just beats you with Geralf's Messengers and Strangleroot Geist, right? Like when I was playing D&T, I stopped bringing in Rest in Peace in that matchup because it was just bad. It just didn't do anything. I just lost to their creatures.
Yeah, and I recognize
you just the Yawgmoth is just insane. Like that card is great. If you're saying that deck loses to removal, I don't even think that's really very true at all. Because when Yawgmoth hits the board, it's like a draw 5 in a lot of spots. So like you kill their Yawgmoth and then they just find another one in the 5 cards that they draw with the Yawgmoth, right? That's my experience with the Yawgmoth deck, at least, is that
if you have a board,
they're drawing at least 3 cards, at least.
Sure, like if you have a board presence, if you have a stuff, like you have a lot of things already going for you, and then you play something very strong. Yeah, you're gonna have advantages. If I have combo pieces in play with Amulet and I drop a Titan and it resolves, yeah, I'm gonna get a lot of advantages regardless if you kill my Titan or not, right?
I guess my argument is it's very hard to that deck is they're playing 05s in for 2 mana. They're playing multiple undie removal is not actually that good against that deck. Like it's tough to line up your removal spells well. Is I guess where I'm going with this. I think removal against that specific deck is a lot worse than removal against the
other decks. Yeah, because it has the
Kiki
Undying
deck we were just talking about, for example.
Right.
Yes, that deck would be quite cold to removal. The
Yeah.
Yawgmoth deck is really not that cold to removal, and that's the concern that I would have. Is like it's already a deck that's like really good against removal, and then they just like throw Birthing Pod in there and just like get even more consistent Yawgmothing, which is just such a good card. But
And they get more consistent, like quality creatures. They don't have to rely on. They can go for the silver bullets to fight against other decks.
yeah, and they can now they have a pod to pod into the Blood Artist dude.
I get it. Yeah, I played Melira Pod. It's the same concept. You just have you just upgraded Melira to Yogg, and you're doing all this. No, I get that. So
Yeah. Also, when it comes to the unbans, I feel like cards like Pod and Splinter Twin, I think if they were ever going to get unbanned, it was going to be when we were during the heart of the pandemic when everything was like fully digital. Like that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, and we talk about that all the time. That there's a 2-year gap that as an organization, you could have played around with a lot of things. You could have ran phantom events where people could have access to the stuff, or give them a token that they could buy. There's a lot of different things they could have done, and like I can understand not doing it in the first couple months. I can even understand not doing it in the first 6 months. But when we were like going on 6 to 9 months, and we're like, hey, it's still gonna be around. Like it's gonna be a bit, and you're just like, hey, we're just still not gonna do anything.
Yep. Oh yeah, like.
Anyway, we went on a pretty long tangent there, jumping into modern conversation.
No,
yeah, we really did.
It's always fun to talk about bans, unbans.
They also didn't ban anything in Pioneer. I'm just saying.
There was no bans in Pioneer, but Pioneers, I guess I don't know if we want to call it Pioneer's older brother, younger brother, whatever. And that's historic. They did nerf one of the cards, and that was Teferi Time Raveler. They nerfed it to make it legal.
Yep.
They did more than just that, though, right? Because the alchemy rebalances also impact historic.
Yes, but the main one is just the unbanning of Teferi, Time Raveler, baby Teferi is what they like to call him. I'm just going to go down on some of the stuff. So the first big change is instead of 3 mana, it's 4 mana now. Two blue-white. Now the other big change, he is a starting loyalty of 5 and not 4.
Mm-hmm.
Now the other one, let's talk about the static ability.
Yeah.
The static ability is different. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn.
Mm-hmm.
Still, that good old static abilities for planeswalkers. We like them. All right.
Yeah, I really wish that was added in to the +1.
Yeah. I just don't. I've never been I haven't liked the static abilities so far, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was like, just adding it into the +1, I think would have been fine, because then you have to either minus or plus. But
and then the +1 until next turn, you may cast sorcery spells as though they had flash, and then -3 return up to 1 target artifact creature enchantment to its owner's hand. Draw a card. They should have removed the up to.
No.
Yeah. Just no guaranteed card draw. You better have a target.
I'm not even sure this card gets played anymore.
Oh, dude, this card's definitely still going to get played. Well, to be fair, I don't know how relevant Historic is right now, but this card's quite good.
Yeah, it's not absurd, and to add the other thing to it, I will see some control decks I feel like play this, right?
Absolutely.
Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna be playing this in Jeskai. Never mind. I'm gonna play
this card is broken, dude. This card is still stupid. The static is this. I still feel like this card is really good. It's not gonna be as good as before,
right?
But it's still pretty good. And they gave it more loyalty. So even though you're paying an extra mana, you do get 1 more loyalty. So you do get a little bit of a payoff for one more mana. I'm gonna and it's still just going to be really ridiculous in any kind of control mirror, right? It's still so stupid. You can't play counter spells. You can't, if you don't have a counter spell for this, you can't use a removal spell on it the turn they play it. You just kind of get time walked. It's still really annoying. I don't know. Again, I don't know how relevant Historic's going to be anyway, and I don't know. I don't know exactly. Like you said, the Jeskai deck that you're playing or whatever, the deck with the the land, right?
I'm putting it right into that deck.
Of course you
100%.
are. Why wouldn't you put it right into the deck? It's ridiculous. It's still great. I mean, it's still, yeah. I don't know. I think this card is still with what they did to Omnath and then what they did to this are just like not even comparable. They basically made Omnath unplayable, and then they took this and they didn't even hurt it that much. Honestly, like I don't like the can't cast spells during your turn is still insane. Like it's not quite as busted. But there's hardly any cascading or anything going on in Alchemy anyway. So like,
yeah, it's
I don't know.
You mean historic?
But
yeah,
it's
historic.
awkward because you can't blame on your opponents. I don't know. I still think this card's very good.
They did that so it didn't stop the cards like Finale of Promise and Dreadhorde Arcanist.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't stop those two, which is huge because Finale is Blue Red Phoenix, and then you have Dreadhorde Arcanist, which is its own deck.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to this card doesn't shut down two of probably the most popular decks, I guess you can call them.
Okay.
Because both Arcanist and Phoenix are 2 tier 1 decks.
Right, but I mean, still, like even in that control deck I'm playing with the Blue White Lotus, I'm probably still only playing like 2 of these in there. It's not like
I mean, it is a 4-mana planeswalker. I mean, it's not.
It's not like how it used to be though, where I'm playing like 4 of, and I'm like happy to slam it no matter what.
Yeah. The tempo with 3 mana as opposed to 4 is certainly a change, but I still think this card's very good.
Yeah.
This 4-mana Teferi actually is going to help you be able to get your bombs and stuff into play on your turn though, in like the mirrors and stuff, which is nice. Being able to use this to make sure that your big mana Teferi resolves is awesome.
It's also relevant that this card does not get Inquisitioned, by the way, now.
That's true. All relevant, because Inquisition, another card that's played pretty well. Maybe I'm a little sad, and this might be just bias reasons, that they didn't hit anything from the Black-Green Cat deck.
Yeah.
That is odd, isn't it?
Because that deck seems like that's the by far. I guess that and Phoenix is by far the best decks.
I think so. I think that sounds about right. And the deck Dewey's playing, right?
Yeah.
This blue-white Strict Proctor deck is quite good.
Yeah.
From what I'm hearing, at least.
Yeah, I think it's the Is It Phoenix, the Golgari deck, either the blue-white / Jeskai control piles, the white-green Scurry Oak deck, and then Rakdos. I think those are like the top 5 decks people are supposed to.
That sounds right. Funny enough, my record of I was playing Rakdos for a minute in Historic. I haven't touched it in a while, but I'm like 6-0 with that thing. So yeah, Rakdos was very good and a really good ladder grinder to just go right up the ladder for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've actually been jamming the Niv Mizzet control deck.
That's a good deck too. Yeah, that's a good deck too.
I actually think I would find a slot for 1 to 2 of these Teferi Time Ravelers in there.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Why
wouldn't you? It's great. It lets you just resolve your Niv for free. They can't counter it. It's so good.
I was gonna say, Niv ain't free. I wish Niv was free.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
It's free with Giganta.
You know your opponent's not going to be able to interact with it.
Have you ever cast a Niv off Giganta? Oof, it feels like you played Niv for free. That shit's nice. I did that a few times today. I'm like, man, this is hot.
Gross.
But yeah, Teferi is back in the fold. I like that they brought them and reevaluated them. I wonder if they're gonna just put Oko in the historic now with like the nerf version.
They might.
Yeah, I would expect it come back at some point. Mm-hmm. And this is just tinfoil hat thing, but they sold or are selling that Oko set. The cosmetic thing, so it's like it's coming. He's like,
well, that is one really nice thing about the whole alchemy and being able to edit cards and stuff, right? Is now they really never have to ban anything, like in those formats. In alchemy and historic, like they almost never have to ban a card ever again if they don't want to, like because they can just keep editing cards, like.
Right, and so that's always been the upside of a digital-only format.
Right.
My only critique on it, because I don't mind when they do this, it's the confusion that they add when the cards are the same name.
Right.
So I wish they would just change the name.
That makes sense.
Sure.
and edit it in some way so then you have a separation. You can call it the same thing. You can call it whatever you want. Teferi is something else. I don't know. Instead of Time Raveler, I don't know. Call it the Unraveler. I don't care.
Time Unraveler, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, something like that. Just to have the distinction and remove the confusion. Outside of that, I'm like at the point where I just have to accept that this is going to happen.
Yeah.
So.
And I think there are plenty of positives to it. And the thing about it too, Duy, the thing you're saying there, I've been confused multiple times already about like how like card X works in standard versus how it works in alchemy, because we're going to be playing both formats and the cards work differently in different formats. That's going to be really confusing.
It cost one of my opponents thing when I was playing that standard event. I'm sorry, when I was playing the alchemy event, I was at 4 life. They activated their Haven and swung thinking they had lethal, and they were definitely only putting me to 1.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah, because
that's really rough, because that's a very easy mistake to make as a player who's played a lot with. Even if you played with both variations, you know your brain can't shortcut what the card does, which is like really weird.
Especially like
normally you don't even have to, like, once you've played enough of the card, you don't even have to think about what it does. You know, you just know what this card does. It does this.
And it's going to be super confusing this weekend. We have an alchemy event and we have a standard event that we might be playing, right?
Yeah.
If we do both of those and we're playing a close enough deck in both of them, misclicks will happen and bad decisions could be made as a result of that.
Yeah,
so.
And that doesn't make you a bad player. It's just, kind of an awkward position.
Yeah.
It's hard to pay attention to stuff like that sometimes.
Yeah, I can go on the whole spiel of why I hate the idea of alchemy and all that.
Sure.
Mention alchemy, we're actually gonna be holding off on going the full breakdown of all the alchemy cards, because we're gonna be doing the part 2 of our alchemy deep dive next week.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's not that much left. I don't know if you'd recognize that, because there's like 10 or 12 of them that are just kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, there are a lot of weird ones that
yeah, there is a lot of irrelevant ones.
Yeah, so like if you do want to wrap it up, it's just the Lich doesn't have the sack now. That's it. They lowered the cost of assembly, but make you commit more to it. So there's a whole thing, like 10 or whatever cards that are all just venture related.
Are they even playable? You guys play this?
We know of, but
there is a black-white adventure deck.
Maybe they will be. Who knows?
Right.
Because I definitely
tweak some toughness on some of these cards, reduce the cost. So there's not a ton there that's relevant at the moment to alchemy.
Is Triumphant Adventurer ever played in your black-white deck?
No.
Not this black-white deck, but there is a black-white adventure deck, and that is the all-star in the deck and really gets things going.
Yeah, so the card's nuts. So it's actually kind of cool that they buffed its power a little bit. That's
the only one that I found a huge amount of relevance to.
That has relevance to the dungeon, is what you're saying.
Yeah, with the rest of them stuff. We'll see if it goes anywhere. But the only cards I think that are worth the mention on this is Divide by Zero, Fearsome Whelp, Hullbreaker, Inquisitor Captain, Liar, and Sanguine, and the Town Razor. Like, if you want to spend the time on that conversation, I think we should focus it on those cards. We can save it for next week. That's fine. But I'm just saying,
we should save it for next week. But...
we should hone in on those cards, and we can talk a little bit about the adventure.
Because
and then we can talk about some other cards too, and also, like I said, I've got an article dropping tomorrow where I go into some detail on some of these alchemy cards that are really messed up. So if any listeners are interested, you can head over to swishgaming.com and read up on some of the cards that I've been really, really impressed with, that were really pushing me into certain archetypes and kind of where the format lies. So
absolutely.
Yeah, like there's a lot of like when I first saw this list, a lot of it made me laugh. And there's also like they're changing cards, like if you cast it and it enters the battlefield. It feels
that one's huge.
That one's huge. And in addition, I really feel like that's how it's going to be going forward with a lot of cards that have entered the battlefield triggers, is you're going to start seeing that wording on it. Which isn't it isn't unnecessary, because it turns off a lot of the opportunity for broken stuff happening, right? But at the same time, man, your clone creatures become just a little bit worse when you're printing them.
Yeah,
Because
yep.
usually the benefit of playing clone creatures was getting like an enter the battlefield trigger. But not saying
But
that would make
making-
them unplayable by any means.
Yeah, they've been making clones better already with the reduction in cost that we're seeing, different stipulations on them, modal options on them. So, no. But yeah, we'll leave that for next week.
Yep. But we did overlook one thing for historic. I should bring this up. They did move memory lapse from suspended to fully banned.
They did.
Which, with that being said, I like the idea of keeping the suspended system. If they don't know how they want to nerf or like rebalance a card yet, just suspend it, and then with the next announcement, announce the rebalanced version. While you're
I'll
trying
get more into it next week because I don't want to go on a tangent here because I'm definitely going to. But I disagree with you on that, and I have a reason for it. And it's about the economy as a result. But we'll dive into that next week.
Sounds good.
Oh, I didn't think about this. Now that it's officially banned, I wonder if I get wild cards.
Maybe.
Tomorrow. Because I had 4 memory lapse. Because I don't think it was in any other format. The one that's confusing was when they're in multiple formats.
Yeah.
Because you don't know when the hell you're getting your wild cards.
Yeah.
It's always a roll of the dice, like what they decide to do. But yeah, we'll definitely should talk about like the whole suspended into the rebalancing, all that next week. I think that would be a good time because I think we'll have like different opinions on what we'd like to see.
Right.
I'll be curious what you would like to see in the long run. I'd like to see the new Omnath being 3 mana, but they didn't give me what I want. It's cool. Wizards are some...
We'll nerf it into the ground as a result.
Yeah, let's go. But no, that was the ban list. It does look like they're going to try to stay and keep an eye on things. When it comes to Legacy, mainly. Standard, I'd assume they were, but it doesn't feel like Standard's getting much love in the future. Historic, to answer Steven's question. NRG next event is Historic, I believe, for their next online one.
Yeah, next weekend. Not this weekend, but next weekend.
Oh, when we're gone.
I thought next weekend was Alchemy again. Is it Historic Alchemy?
Possibly. We'll confirm that.
Yeah, let's confirm it right now while we're talking about it,
Yeah, we might as well. I want to know what I'm playing.
And is that the weekend we're in Philly?
I thought you guys were in Philly the following week.
I thought it's 2 weeks from tomorrow.
You guys are going to Philly 3 weeks from now.
No, 2 weeks. We're going to Philly 2 weeks from now. But that's fine because the NRG is next weekend, which is 1 week from now. So.
Oh, next week. I was thinking that.
Yeah, I guess it depends on your guys' concept of next week here.
Yeah, I was. I think we had like different concepts.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's different. SCG Con is 11th through the 13th. NRG is the 5th or whatever. So.
Okay. Yeah, well, I believe it's Historic. Did you get to confirm that?
I am pulling it up right now.
It'd be for our listeners so they can know. I'd like them to be able to go and play online for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only going to be this week's.
Yeah, well, definitely anybody that wants to go check out the NRG event in Wisconsin. That's going to be a good one as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be in Milwaukee, which is a great town for Magic. Have you been to Milwaukee, guys?
Yeah.
Yep. All right, NRG series. And so the 5th is Historic.
The 5th.
Okay.
All right. Steven, can I interest you and pick your deck for you? Can I pick your Historic deck? What if I make sure it's a tier deck, but I get to pick what you play?
Being a tier deck, it could be tier 5.
No,
it's still a tier deck.
No, a top tier
I
deck.
know what he means. I know what he means.
A top tier deck. I'm not trying to set them up.
The deck that I'm gonna be the most miserable playing. He's just gonna think, what would Steven hate to play the most? Of all these good decks, what is the thing that would
It's
piss
an
him
easy
off
choice. It's Scurry Oak.
the most to play?
It's Scurry Oak. You'll hate clicking through all the interactions and triggers.
Well, no, that's fine because you just click the. Oh, you're right. You do have to keep. I do have that deck, Bill. I actually enjoy that deck, though.
To be fair, I think manning arena is so much easier than manning
Oh,
Moto.
way easier. It's not
So
close.
I
It's
can't
not
really
close.
like punish him too bad.
No. Arena is so much more user friendly than Moto is.
Let me pick your
know.
first deck you play in a challenge.
What was that?
The first time you play a challenge on stream, I get to pick your deck.
Oh God.
He's just gonna end up throwing money away.
He's just gonna give me a Yorion pile. It's the most. Yeah, just give me any Yorion deck.
Yorion
Exactly
blue-white
all he has to
control.
do.
You know, he's gonna give you Yorion Urza pile.
They're great, and they play counter spells too. So like never gonna be able to F6 ever. Yeah, I'm not even gonna finish game 2s, dude.
You're not gonna
block
finish
play.
game 1.
You're gonna get
Yeah, a lot of
you're
times
gonna get
you're right. If I play
Yorion
mirror match, game
Urza.
1 will not end.
You're gonna get Yorion Urza control piles.
Yeah. Well, at least, yeah, you're right. I mean, Urza has an infinite combo, though. He'll just give me Urza with no combo.
Do you know how infinite combos work on Moto? They suck,
I
bro.
do. I know they're pretty bad, but yeah.
He's gonna opt to side them out so he doesn't have to worry about them in game 2 and 3.
Terrible. It's just awful.
Oh,
Awful.
I think it'd be fun to watch.
Right.
We can have a misery timer or a
Someday I
countdown.
need to just, like, sit down with you, Dewey, or something, and just have you, like, show me how to yield properly and how to, I don't know. I just, like, I need some sort of, like, rundown for how to not waste time.
Like, to me, anyway, it's like yield on the triggers that you don't want to respond to, yield and save target to the triggers you want to have repeat over and over. But the problem is, at the end of the day, there's some triggers you just can't yield. Like the Urza combo, you can't yield anything because the triggers there won't let you yield. Like, it's just crappy coding on some of these things, and it doesn't let you doing it. So
yeah, I don't know, man. I struggle really badly with that. I had people in chat today telling me, "Hey, you don't have to auto yield to those fetch lands." I was like, "Huh? What do you mean?" I thought that I never have to yield to them again. They're like, "No. Actually, if you're yielding to those, you're wasting even more time because they're all separate entities." And I didn't realize that. I thought once I yielded to Wooded Foothills, every time anyone fetched with Wooded Foothills, it would not ask me to do anything because, in my opinion, it shouldn't. I don't want to respond to a freaking Wooded Foothills in my Orzhov deck.
right, and it's the same reason why when I'm getting Valakut triggers, I have to auto yield 2 separate Valakuts on those separate triggers. So to save time, you have to know which ones you're auto yielding to. Otherwise, you have to go back and re-auto yield to a different one.
So stupid, man. It's so annoying. But I get it. I understand it. It's just tilting.
Yep, So.
Yeah, it definitely can. But yeah, next week we'll definitely do a deep dive. We'll go and see how that's gonna be, how the alchemy format's gonna be. We'll take a look at maybe we'll, if we have time, we'll take a look at a deck list or two. Take at least take a dive into your guys' black white. I'd like you guys maybe we'll get like an updated build of it. And we can compare the two, the ones you register for energy and why you made some of the changes.
Nope. Well,
we'll have to, we do have that deck. I copy pasted it to send it to you and stuff, so we have it somewhere. So we can. In my article currently, I just took the current build of what say, Dewey?
We also have it because we entered energy or the current.
Oh yeah, that's too.
That's the benefit of MTG Melee is it saves your deck list because I've done that.
Melee's awesome, dude. Melee's really good.
Yep,
love it.
By the way, for anybody interested, SCG Con is due their registrations for all their events at those SCG Cons through MTG Melee. Was not aware of that until a couple days ago.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, I don't know if they're doing their actual they're using that tournament software because it also wants your arena login info. So I think they're gonna use that and then still use the companion app because I believe you have to use the companion app when stores have to use them to get like perks and stuff. So I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out because I know that some organizers chose not to use the companion app for larger events.
Like NRG for example, and Legacy Pit when we went to their event.
They both opted not to use it because of the requirements. So. And
I think I saw Buffalo. The Chicken Dip is actually using MTG Melee for their upcoming one Saturday.
Yeah, was theirs online? No, theirs was in person.
Yeah, it's in person in Columbus.
Yep.
Cool. But yeah, we'll definitely check it out. But yeah, we are gonna go ahead and put a nice little bow on this episode, guys. Again, check us out next week for the Alchemy Deep Dive Part 2. But until next time, it's been Larry, Steven, and Dewey. We will catch you guys later.
See you next time.
Have a great one.
Yes, Mole Money says we've got the whale on tonight. The X whale. Is there any story behind the name X whale?
There is a story.
Is it a good one?
No.
Okay.
Not really. I can tell it if you want.
I'm down to hear it.
Yeah. So when I was like, I don't know, 13 or something, I was playing a lot of Minecraft with my friends, right?
Okay.
And we all made our names the letter X followed by an animal that like sounds like our name. And so like my friend Simon was salmon, and you know there's like a million variations on that, and you know I was like 16 or 17 when I made my Moto account, and I just used the same name, and
That's cool, man.
yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll kind of stop doing the introductory stuff, and let's just kind of hop right into your the hammer list from this past weekend. So you got second place at the NRG with a kind of new version of hammer in a way, with a couple new cards at least, cards that I haven't seen in a while, and I don't think most people had seen. And I imagine that some of your opponents were probably pretty surprised to see this card too, and by the time they know it's there, they just die. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about how you ended up on Core Outfitter in Hammer?
Yeah, so that's not really like my innovation. I'm not a great deck builder and stuff.
Okay.
But, I tried Outfitter for like very briefly, or maybe I even like didn't even play it, and I like thought about it and dismissed it just like in theory or whatever, like a few months ago. Like just like super briefly. Like I said, I might not have even played any matches. And then Jacob Negro recently posted a list on Twitter with a Ginger Brute and 2 Outfitters. And I was like not super happy with where my hammer build had been. I'd been trying various builds like main deck Thoughtseize, which I didn't really like. Ingenious Smith, which I didn't like at all. Giver of Runes, didn't really like that. Dark Confidant, whatever. There's a million things you can do. And you know, one of the easiest ways to lose with the hammer deck is just not drawing an equipper, because you only have 8, and unlike your Saga can't search for an equipper, right? So you just have to naturally draw it. You don't have any control over it, because you don't have cantrips or anything like that. You just have to draw one.
Yeah.
You can present multiple almost every game though with Luris though, because Luris is like, if they don't prismatic ending you or forcing negation you, then it's then you're good at presenting multiple, but getting the first one can be kind of hard.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, I'll just play Outfitter, and they were fine. Like they weren't like insane or anything, but I did get to go turn 1 hammer, turn 2 Core Outfitter curve a few times, which was kind of nice. You know? And then Ginger Brute came up a couple times, and yeah, nothing crazy, but probably better than what I was doing before, and so probably sticking with those changes this weekend in Milwaukee.
Okay, cool. So you're going to be running Hammer back again in the.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Why do you like Hammer in the current format?
So recently, and by recently I mean like last year, 6 months or so, my philosophy on like what deck I should be playing has shifted from like what I think is like some combination of fun, and I can like sort of reverse engineer why I think it's good after I think it's fun, you know?
Sure.
Instead of it's just like, okay, I'm looking at what decks have the most effect on the metagame and why do they have those effects.
Yeah.
And you can look at like all the modern decks, right? And there's so many decks that are just like anti-hammer decks. Like, yeah, I play 3 Kolagons Command, 3 Engineer Explosives. Okay, I have 4 Force Diggers in my board. And Hammer still does really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some decks that when they're hated out, they don't play well in the face of hate, but Hammer really does. It's so resilient. It's insane because you have so many angles between like long game with Luris and Saga. You can make a ton of value, and you can also just turn 2 them. Like the hate cards are good. Like I do lose to Force of Vigor a lot of the time.
Sure.
Like, if you have it, it's going to be good. But I don't know. I just think it's really resilient, really powerful, and I do like playing it.
Okay.
I hope that I'm not biased by that.
Yeah. Well, part of it is too, when you're having a lot of success, it's hard to not like what you're playing, right? Like
I never lose. So.
Yeah, exactly. When you're doing well with a deck, it's pretty easy to love the deck. Like it.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know. Yeah, for sure. There have been like. I didn't particularly love the Urza Oko decks, but when I like 8-0'd Modern at the Invitational last year, I was like, well, yeah, this is fine, I guess. This is pretty fun. Gilded Goose into Oko is pretty cool, I guess. Turn 1 Emery with Mox Opal, sure, whatever, I guess it's fine. No, yeah, I hear you, man. So what are, I don't have a lot of experience with Hammer at all. We have Andrew Wolfeis on our team is a pretty big Hammer guy, but I haven't talked a ton with him about the deck, and I assume you two probably have somewhat different philosophies. So what are some of the really good matchups you think for Hammer? Do you have some really, like, if you sit across from this matchup, you're like, oh yeah, this is something I want to play against?
Yeah, I think like the best matchups are like that like currently exist right now are basically decks that like rely really heavily on red removal spells. Like Hammer's really good at fighting through red removal.
Makes sense.
Because you can either respond with Sigarda's Aid, you can build up a big turn where you have multiple hammers. You can make constructs that are bigger than the red removal or whatever.
Yeah.
So like Burn and Murktide come to mind.
Okay.
Like I think if I could play a whole tournament against Burn and Murktide and lose every die roll, I would snap it off. Like I would be totally fine with that.
Sweet, man. Very cool. Okay, what are some matchups that when you sit down across from, you're like, oh no? And I think I know what one of them is going to be, because I'm pretty sure you tweeted on Twitter before your finals match, and you were like, oh god, here we go. Yeah. So what are some matchups you really don't want to play against with Hammer?
Elementals is tough, man.
Elementals
is tough. That was a tough finals opponent. I was watching the other semifinals, and the Rhinos guy was winning, and the Elementals guy drew Omnath, and I'm like, no. Because like Rhinos is like close, Elementals is so good. I was like, oh no. So they have Force Solitude, which is one of the hardest cards to beat. I mean, it's not like that hard to beat, but it's one of the best cards you can have in your main deck.
Yep.
And they also play Ephemerate. So
exactly. I was about to say it's a lot harder to beat when they do it and then do it again, and then it stays in play as a lifelinker, and then randomly can be a vigilant creature later as well with the Kahira.
Fury too. That guy boarded into Force of Vigor. He had 2 bolts main deck. He drew them both game 1, and then he had like Helixes in his board too. I think he had some number of EEs too. I mean, he was ready. He was telling me
and he had a dress down. He had a dress down for your constructs if that came up too.
Yeah. He had so much, and he was telling me he went to the Hunter Burton in Dallas, and he said he lost a hammer a few times there, and he's lost a hammer a couple times, and he's just like, I'm just gonna play a ton of hate because if I don't, I think that's totally reasonable because Hammer is really messed up, and so like even packing hate if it's already like kind of close, totally reasonable, and he got me. I mean, he was very prepared for Hammer, and it paid off for him. So
clearly, I don't think he dropped a match the whole day. I don't think he lost in Swiss, and then he obviously won the whole tournament, and then he won the last NRG too. So he's making me look kind of silly for putting Elementals down, because I put Elementals down after the Invitational, and
I saw you playing it there. I've heard a few of your matches.
It was funny enough, actually, I lost to Hammer at the Invitational. I was pretty bummed when I lost to Hammer because I went 4-0 in Standard, I think, or 3-1. I can't remember. I think I went 4-0 in Standard, and then I started 0-2 in Modern, and my second loss was to Hammer, and I was like, oh god, like that's rough. Like losing a
It is a good matchup.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of my better matchups, and it was
beat anybody.
Exactly it can like. He drew pretty well in games. I think it was 2 and 3. He might have got me game 1 though. But I didn't. There was like one mistake I made in one of the games. I can't quite remember. I think I was a little early on my Solitude and could have been more patient and should have been more patient. But either way, Hammer's a sick deck for sure. And like you said, it can kind of just beat anything and can kind of play through the hate. So that's pretty cool. That's awesome, man. So. You said you're going to keep playing it in the future. Are there any like adjustments or anything? Were there any cards that you didn't like? Are there any things you maybe want to change about your sideboard? Obviously, you don't have to share all your tech or whatever here.
I'm an open book.
Okay, fair enough.
I got nothing to hide.
Cool.
I mean, I haven't thought too hard about it. Honestly, I'm probably gonna run back my same 75 I played 2 weekends ago. I mean, nothing has changed drastically. No breakout decks or anything. Maybe I'll play some more Sanctifiers. I might just play no Hushbringers and just lose to the Elementals deck and the Blink decks.
Sure.
Those didn't seem super popular, and there were a lot of Blood Crypt gamers.
Yeah.
Like, so many.
Yep.
I did EXO Blood Crypt the whole weekend.
Nice.
But my opponents...
That's fair. I was about... Yeah, because So, I guess I've... At this point, I've been playing Shadow the last few weeks. What do you think of the Shadow matchup from your seat so far, from the Hammer seat? Do you have a ton of experience in that matchup? What have you kind of thought of that matchup?
I think Shadow's pretty far ahead, especially if you're main decking Dress Down.
Yep.
Because game one, the way that I would beat the old Grixis decks before they would play Shadow, not old, but like, a few months older.
Yeah.
Is like they were sort of cold to Saga. I don't want to say cold to Saga, but like, that much value for one card against a deck like that is always going to be pretty reasonable.
Because all they want to do is 1-for-1 you into the ground. Yeah. That was kind of the point of the black-red deck. And so Saga is inherently like a 3-for-1 if you're able to get both constructs and the one mana artifact. Exactly. So that makes sense.
Shadow Spear is always worth a card.
Yep.
Not always, but it's usually worth a card.
Absolutely.
Or like I can get a hammer, target my Mem Knight with an 8 or something like that, and it's worth a ton of value there. But Dress Down, I mean, not only does it answer the Saga almost entirely, you get the 1-mana artifact still, and draw a card, but it's also a huge tempo swing for you because I have to invest 2 full turns with it, and I lose my land. So like I'm gonna have less mana on future turns, and like Dress Down lines up so well because obviously like
Funny enough,
main deck Dress Down is tough.
It is funny enough as you're bringing this up. One of my round 3 or 4 opponent at the NRG this past week, or I guess last weekend, he was on Hammer, and I set up the like Luris Dress Down stuff, and he had a Pure Steel that just did nothing the entire game because it could be, and he had a Hammer, but he could just never move it because I kept giving the Pure Steel no text and just put him in the lock.
That lock is pretty brutal.
It is, yeah. That's why, like, Shadow is why I moved off Elementals, man, because that was another, just like, if they get that Luris lock on you, like, you're just, like, so screwed. Like, unless you can somehow get 3 mana Teferi in play, which you usually have to top deck it because they're going to rip it out of your hand with the Thoughtseize of the Inquisition. If you don't top deck it, man, I mean, they just, like, they assemble that combination, the Dress Down and the Luris, and obviously they have tons of other ways they can beat you too. But like if they just get that going, your deck just doesn't do anything. It's just completely nothing because almost all of your elementals are sorcery speed. Risen Reef becomes a joke. Muldrifter becomes a joke. It's all just a disaster. So Shadow is why I moved off elementals, and I'm still very worried. Like I like elementals. I think it's a really good deck, but I'm just very concerned that Shadow just seems to be getting more and more traction. It feels like almost every week. It seems to just continually be doing really well right now. And so I'm very scared to pick up elementals again because I do not want to play against a bunch of, especially if they're good pilots too.
Yeah.
That really, really scares me because I've been losing to, like, I was losing to just random guys at F&M on Shadow, which is really, really concerning. But yeah, so I don't know. Dewey, do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, I mean, so with people have talked about Hammer for a while. Like some of the nuances of it are known, but like, what are the different interactions you've seen that come up that players might not be aware of or might be aware of that they should keep an eye out for? Or what about new Hammer players if they're learning about it and picking it up? Is what's going on with them?
So the first thing that you like basically have to do is if you're playing Hammer is you have to be pretty familiar with all the interaction that like every stock deck can have for basically a giant guy. So like if you have assembled a giant guy, if you put a hammer on something, what can they do? And then you also want to know like what the other interaction that can prevent you from getting the giant guy. So like against Blurred Murktide, an example is they usually play between 6 and 8 lightning bolt effects with Unholy Heat, and they play like 1 main deck EE and like 1 or 2 charms usually. And so like the EEs and the charms are the things that can prevent you from having your big guy. And so it's like ideal to put the hammer on the Stoneforge Mystic generally instead of your Mem Knight, although intuitively you want to put it on your worst possible creature. That's like the easy shortcut. But you want to put it on Stoneforge Mystic usually, or Pure Steel if you have a window, because then it's a 2-mana guy, they can't steal it. And if they steal it and you don't have a Pure Steel, it's like pretty bad for you because like they have a 12/12 and you don't.
Right.
It's like that's just like one example, and so you should be really familiar with everything. And I see it pretty crazy because like I see like a lot of people play Pure Steel, then they play Hammer like into open mana. Don't do that. Don't do that because then they'll kill your Pure Steel, and then you're gonna be really sad. But if you do it the other way, then you put it on something else, and they have to kill that, and they have to kill your Pure Steel. And also you got to do that even if they're playing Solitude, you have to do it that way, which is super lame because like I mean sometimes you have to peel a Shadow Spear or whatever, so you just kind of have to clinch. But like you can force them to have 2 removal spells that way, and those are like fairly basic things. I guess there's also like Sigarda's Aid versus Prismatic Ending decks. Like I sandbag my Sigarda's Aid. Like if my opponent reveals Kahira and and I'm not bottlenecked too hard on mana, I basically just chill on it.
That's
unless
really
I have like
smart.
another one or another Pierce Steel or something.
That's
really
really
my whole draw
smart.
gets blown up by an ending, then you just can't play it out. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just too bad for you.
That makes a lot of sense. That's very, very smart. Because a lot of players will just run it out there on turn 1, I assume, all the time, and then get punished if your opponent has the Prismatic Ending. Do you? You said you do it against Kahira. If they reveal Yorion, do you do that too?
Yeah, usually. And
Okay.
it's all dependent on your hand, because if you like mulligan maybe and your choke point is mana, sometimes you can't respect it.
Sure. Sometimes you just have to hope they don't have it. The classic pretend it doesn't exist type of thing, and just kind of hope.
Definitely get into those spots, but like
Sure.
it's good to be aware of like you don't necessarily have to play your aid at the first opportunity, because if you can leave an aid in play or whatever, that's usually better for you than if they have to hit the hammer, because you have way more access to way more hammers.
Sure.
But like, if you also have another aid, then it's like, just obviously play the first one.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Then you have 2. Oh, and then if you have 2 aids against a red deck, you can target 2 guys, and then they bolt 1, or you just leave it there. You know what I mean? Like, so 2 aids beats a removal spell against red decks. Beats red removal spells. Not fatal push, because you have to choose, and then they just wait for the trigger to resolve, and then like terminate or fatal push or whatever beats you.
Yeah,
but like bolt and heat don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are just like some off the top of my head, like things to be aware of, I guess, if that's useful.
No, I mean, it's useful because like I think a lot of people go into the matchup, either they're against it or they're the one playing it, and if it's the earlier times picking up, they go, this is a combo deck, and it is a combo deck, and
kind of, yeah.
it has like lots of value there. It can play the controller game. It can take the long route. The mirror matches are insane.
The mirror matches like, because sometimes you just get run over. Like sometimes you just die on turn 3, and it's like beats, but like after board, like when people have path and ending and seal, and like seal Luris is like kind of the ideal game state that you're playing towards. So it's like not really beatable, because it's like, well, I have a disenchant every turn. And you can like kind of beat that if you have. It's like if I have Luris and Pure Steel and Hammer, then I am beating your Luris Seal, because I'm drawing a card every cycle, I guess. And it's like that's kind of how you can get out of that. But like if you can manage their Luris and keep your Luris in play with a Seal, then it's too much almost always.
Yep, that's why I played Hammer a few weeks ago at F&M, and I had that come up. I played against a buddy of ours, Zach, who may even be listening to this right now, so he remembers it well probably. But yeah, he was doing the non-Luris build because he was just trying it out type of thing, like his first week even playing the deck. And I mulled to 5 in game 2, but established the Luris Seal thing, and he just kind of couldn't really do anything. So that does make a lot of sense. Another one question I wanted to ask, you mentioned testing a little bit of the Dark Confidant. Was the Dark Confidant build no good? Because that's the build I've seen and been really tempted to try, because I love some Dark Confidant. I'm a big Dark Confidant guy.
Yeah, I definitely respect liking Dark Confidant. I also like Dark Confidant. I am a Dark Confidant enjoyer.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to win a tournament, there's a few problems with Dark Confidant.
Sure.
And there are like some strengths and weaknesses for all of the cards that you can play like in your flex spot. I'm sure you've seen all the lists with like whatever. And Dark Confidant is like sort of an individual card that like if it is unanswered, it will take over the game most of the time. Like if your life total is under a ton of pressure and they don't have an answer, then it will actually help you set up. Unlike Core Outfitter, which on its own is nothing. Giver of Runes on its own isn't super helpful. Ingenious Smith is sort of like Dark Confidant, but like is also better at like attacking and blocking and stuff like that, and it's also better against removal spells. Ton of pros and cons. But I think overall, trading down on mana with this deck is like really bad. Like it's really bad to take your turn 2 off and let them like if you're on the play, you do turn 2, trade my turn 2 for your turn 1, and then you untap and hold up counter spell. That's really bad.
Sure.
And there's also the disaster scenario of Renin 6. Like Renin 6 is like nightmarish.
That makes a lot of sense.
Really good. Dark Confidant is really good against blue-white, and I started boarding them for a little while for like basically like a dedicated blue-white card.
Sure.
But then I just swapped them to Knight of Malice because I thought Knight of Malice. Well, actually, I swapped them for Knight of Infamy, and then I learned that you can't target Knight of Infamy.
Right. Yeah. When I played the deck at F&M, I was literally asking somebody. I was like, "Why in the heck do they know that Knight of Infamy exists? Like, what is this?" And then after the tournament, I was thinking about it more, and I was like, "Oh, you can't throw a hammer on the other one because it has protection from." Okay, I get it now.
Yep.
Type of deal.
I played that one in a Magic Online PTQ, made top 8, and then afterwards was informed, like, have you considered this card that actually works with the cards in your deck? Like,
oh, that's so funny, man. That's great, dude. Who cares though? The card. I mean, honestly, they're both like so good in the matchup, so they're good that you don't even necessarily have to hammer it up, right? You just like pound them over and over because the other one had Exalted too, right? So it's always pounding in for 3, even with no hammer, and you can throw like a Shadow Spear on it too, and I'd imagine a Shadow Spear on a pro, just completely pro your opponent's color on a 4-power creature. I mean, that's a 5-turn clock all by itself, and you're gaining a bunch of life. So I'd imagine that's really hard to raise.
On it still, but
it's
definitely better to just play Malice, just because like I mean it's almost the same, and then like if you have aid, that's just a huge interaction. So.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. If
you want that effect at all, like I right now I don't have any of that in my 75 because blue-white's kind of trending downwards, I guess, towards like the 4-color decks, and it's a lot less potent against the 4-color decks because they have Bolt and Fury. Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, the Ren and 6 scenario for Dark Confidant seems.
It's a tough.
Yeah, that's a big yikes.
I'm already seconding my Mem Knights Ren minus.
Yeah.
0 mana into them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, dude. That's a really horrible exchange for sure. And a lot of the lists that have been main decking Dark Confidant, I've also been seeing like main deck Thoughtseizes. There was even one list that played Duresses and Thoughtseizes. What do you think of those cards in the main deck?
So basically, the way I view this deck is like I view the way that you want to beat interaction is you want to overload their mana.
Sure.
And Thoughtseize is sort of doesn't help you overload their mana because it sort of helps you like if you can use Thoughtseize in a few ways where you're either like trading resources and trying to get both players down to 0, or you can try to like poke a hole. Usually poking a hole against like the current decks like Murktide and Jund is not feasible because they just have so much removal. And so you need to be able to poke a hole. You need to fight over their mana, basically. And so, like, game 1, I don't really like it. But the format has adapted so much to Hammer that, like, Solitude, that you're going to play against multiple 4x main deck Solitude decks in the tournament. You're going to play against multiple Force of Vigor decks in most tournaments. And, like, at a certain point, those cards, you have to have a countermeasure to those cards in some capacity.
Yeah.
And I think that the best anti-Force of Vigor card is Thoughtseize, basically. I mean, there's like, there's other stuff, like there's Void Mirror and stuff, but like they can still cast it for 4, and like, Thoughtseize isn't perfect by any means, but I sort of view it as a reaction to the hate cards and the free cards like Solitude that you can't really fight over in the normal way.
That makes sense. Dewey, do you have any more questions to throw at him here?
The ginger brew. Did you liked it? You didn't like it?
Good question.
Where we?
I thought like I don't know. I didn't even count how many total matches. I guess it would be played 9 rounds on Sunday, and I played like I think 8 or 9 or something. So it's like 17 or 18 total matches at the Energy, and I got the ginger brute like once or twice off Saga, and I was never happy to draw it. Like I don't think a single time.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. It's like only okay. Like it's cool to have unblockable. I think I might be being like too results oriented though, with like not liking it. Like because it makes sense like in theory because like it's I think it's good in the mirror because everything gets chumped in the hammer mirror.
Yep.
Except Gingerbread. Gingerbread does not get chumped, which is like super key because you can unblockable it. Not unblockable. I was actually watching a friend play a league today, and we couldn't unblockable our Gingerbread because our opponent had a Cauldra, and the token has haste.
Oh, man.
God, we can't. And then we just had like this weird board stall for like 10 turns, and it was like...
It's pretty crazy, man. That's pretty crazy.
I think I'm just gonna keep playing the Gingerbread. It also gives you like it helps you fix like the problem of like if you have Saga trigger resolving, and you have an Equipper and you have a Hammer, then you can get a creature to kill them that turn.
Okay.
And it's like that's like sort of helpful. It's like a sort of a new axis to the deck, I guess, where you are like 100% safe if you kill all my guys, right? If I don't have Gingerbrute in my deck, because you are guaranteed to get your next turn. You're guaranteed to get to use your mana again. But that's like not necessarily the truth if I have a Gingerbrute in my deck to either search for a Saga or just randomly take from my hand and kill you all in one go. So I think the Gingerbrute's probably good. I'm gonna keep playing it for a little while, but I'm not like 100% locked on it or anything.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense to have at least a one of in the deck. Being
Yeah.
up, and like we were talking about earlier, where people always kind of have to just respect what you have. They can't just let down the shield, otherwise they can just die. The Gingerbrute just helps reinforce that even further.
Yeah, it's like you could just die even if I have no mana on your end step and I have no creatures in play. You might just die out of nowhere, because I have this unblockable haste guy. So it does make sense. I think I was just like, I don't know, maybe it's like variance or whatever you want to call it, where it's like the Gingerbrute wasn't good for me over. It's only 20-some, not even 20 matches, so like I'm just gonna keep playing it because the reasons make sense still, even though it wasn't particularly good for me over that weekend.
Okay. Actually, I came up with another question I wanted to ask. So last week we were talking with Dan and we were reviewing your guys' match, and he was talking about how I think in Game 3 he got you down to exactly 0 cards.
Yes, sir.
Exactly 0. And you had boarded up to, do you remember how many you boarded up to?
62.
62.
Very scientific number. I ran the numbers. It was the perfect number. I have no idea.
Oh, okay. I was about to ask. 62. What's the reason for 62 instead of 64? Or sometimes you'll run into someone on Moto who just brings in their whole sideboard. Obviously, that's not correct. It's just way too much percentage. You're hurting your deck. But what was the thought process behind 62?
Yeah, so basically the reason I went with 62 was I forget exactly what I was doing. I had like cut all my Mem Knights, and I was like deciding between like Core Outfitter and like something else, or like a Mem Knight or whatever, or like 2 Core Outfitters or something like that. And I was like, well, do I think I'm gonna win more with Core Outfitter, with like an extra Core Outfitter or 2 in my deck or not? I forget what the last 2 cards that I was thinking of were.
Sure.
I was like, am I gonna win more with these in my deck or in my sideboard? And I was like, well, they add extra. They're 2 drops, so they add extra converted mana cost for Tasha's. Oh, Sanctifier on deck was the other kind of marginal card.
Sure.
So they have black removal spells, but like the game's kind of quick. You kind of got a goldfish, but you kind of can't goldfish because they have all the removal spells. Anyway, I was like, am I going to win more with these in my deck or like in my sideboard? It's like, well, I get to add some converted mana cost, and like it's not like it doesn't mess up. You're not like way more likely to get mana screwed if you have 62 cards or 61 cards. It's like
right.
Come on, that's not.
It's pretty marginal.
Yeah, it's super marginal. And like the things come up with Tasha's and stuff. That did end up coming up, and I felt like a genius.
Yeah.
It might have been bad. I'm not like confident. It was like, yes, it was definitely right. I ran like I have this great logic because it was just kind of an on the fly thing. You can ask him. I boarded into 60 in Game 2 and changed my mind for Game 3. Like he asked me the same question. How many cards did you board to? And I guess he probably had that happen before because he asked me in like the opening turns of Game 2, like, how many cards did you board into? And I was like, well, and then kind of got me thinking for Game 3. Like,
oh man, Dan shouldn't have asked. He should have kept his mouth shut. You might not have.
Maybe I don't. It ended up, just a very, very bizarre. And I obviously got super lucky that it. I mean, it was being on camera too was so sick. It was here's me boarding up to 62, winning with no cards in my deck against Mill.
So really sweet,
man. It was pretty funny, yeah.
Yeah, no, Dan last week was really, that was a really, Game 3 he clearly had thought about a lot after the match because he's a thinker, man. He loves thinking about Magic, and
he's a smart guy.
We recently added him to the team, and he's a great asset to the team for sure. He's a crusher, man. Yeah, man. He's a really strong player, and he's a really deep thinker, and sure. I really enjoy watching him play and talking with him about the game, and he's always striving to get better, and he's a really cool guy for sure. But so I guess I'm out of questions on the modern portion of things. Do you have any more questions to do with Hammer, Dewey?
No, I think that's good. Let's move on to Legacy.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Legacy. So this weekend we also have a Legacy NRG coming up, and you and I were discussing our deck choice before the podcast a little bit. So why don't you talk about what you're going to play?
I'm just going to play Super Stock Delver. Like you could literally look at probably the first list on Goldfish will probably be 3 or 4 cards off of whatever I play, right? I'm going to have just like 18 lands with I'm gonna play the Steam Lands configuration. I'm probably gonna play all 16 threats. I think all 16 threats make sense against like lands and death and taxes.
Yeah.
Just maxing out on Delver, DRC, Ragavan, and Murktide because I think Delver's actually pretty good in the death and taxes and lands matchups.
Yep.
And so just play all 16 threats, no baubles or anything. I think I'm gonna play Dead Gone in like the flex removal spot. That could be like Gust Shot or whatever other burn spell you want.
Big fan of Dead Gone right now.
Yep, that's the conclusion we came to as well, is that we should probably be playing Dead Gone for the Murktide specifically.
Yeah, Murktide and Merit Liege.
Merit Liege. We haven't had that one come up yet, but yeah, that one makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we had I had seen it down at the Buffalo Chicken Dip tournament where very much that they went Merit Liege and we would bounce it to your hand and well, I lose.
It's nice to have your Mother of Runes, Stoneforge Mystic, Ragavan answer also pick off the 2020. It kind of works out pretty well, even if it's a little inefficient and sometimes it doesn't line up well against Dragon Race Channeler as opposed to like a Chain Lightning or whatever else you would want to play. But yeah, I think that just Super Stock Delver, it just wins every tournament. It does well in everything. It's the best deck, and I mean, I don't know. There's plenty of decks that could win the tournament. Like if you told me Death and Taxes wins the tournament, or Green White Depths wins the tournament, or remember I played against Alan's team in the team event, and he had like a Jessica control deck.
Yep.
If you told me a deck like that wins the tournament, I'm not gonna be shocked. But I think the deck that is most likely to win the tournament is probably just Blue Red Delver. And the deck is most likely,
Yeah, especially when you consider how many people are playing the deck too. It's by far. I mean, the numbers. Isn't it like it's probably around 20-25% of the metagame, right? I would assume.
I have no idea. I don't look at the data.
That's fair. Dewey, do you have any idea? We could probably pull it up right now on Goldfish and see what the percentage is. I'm gonna guess it's at least 20%. That's my guess. I could be off.
Accurate. I mean, it's so popular.
Let's
doing a 7-day average. Izzet Delver is at 23.4%.
Yep. I mean, I'm not surprised by that at all. So if we assume that's going to be 25% of the room, then yeah, you could also assume that's going to put at least 2 copies probably into top 8 just from the numbers alone. But then when you consider how good the deck is, and also that most legacy players, good legacy players are probably going to gravitate usually towards Delver too, because they know it's like the best thing. But yeah, Will, I was saying last week on the podcast to Dan that I also was planning on playing Delver, and I'm still planning on playing Delver just because I totally agree with that take, man. I mean, it's such a good deck. It's very obviously the best deck. It isn't even. If you argue that it's the best deck, I think you're kind of nuts, or you're in denial. I mean, but the deck just it's just insane. Like it seems to put like 3 to 4 copies in every top 8. It seems to put like 9 to 10 copies in every top 16. It's just such a good deck. It's able to. Ragavan in Days is just so broken, man. I mean, on the play especially.
Ragavan Days on the play is like
just
like you got a Caracas?
Yeah,
you're done.
Yeah, it's just so stupid, dude. It's so crazy good.
I'm like, oh, cool, you have a Caracas. I'll take care of that, and I'm gonna go back to my original game.
Yeah, it's like, all right.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You had the Caracas. Shucks, wasteland it. Play my.
Removal for your 1-drop, and you got to have backup for it a lot of the time. And like Ragavan and Days, they're both great on their own. Ragavan's really, really strong threat.
Oh, yeah.
And Days is obviously Days. It's been legacy staple for 20 years or whatever. And and if you draw them together on turn 1 with a Volcanic Island or a Steam Vents or a Fetch Land or whatever, it's over.
Yeah.
You almost can't lose. I know over is a little bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah, but it's insane how good it is. I remember we ran some leagues or whatever, and Larry and I played one with Burn, which is traditionally supposed to be awesome against Delver. It's supposed to be your one pretty good matchup. It's your only good matchup because Burn is pretty bad, and it just is. I mean, but it's pretty good against Delver. That's always been if Delver is crazy popular, I can just play Burn, and I might be able to spike a tournament because I can just beat all the Delver players. Well, there are 2 problems that exist now. One is the whole monkey daze situation, which we ran into. We lost a die roll and tried to bolt a monkey, and it got dazed, and then we got hit, and then they had a million mana, and things just kind of fell apart from there. But the other problem is they also just have a 2-mana 8/8 flyer now, which you can't really deal with burn spells very well, it turns out. So things have gone from bad to worse for burn, in my opinion. It's hard to even remotely.
Not a serious competitor, and like. If that's a deck that if you told me that won the energy, I would be shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, now I'm looking forward to revisiting this in like 6 days or whatever. And
when Burn has won the NRG with like four main deck red elemental blasts or just something completely ridiculous, something that just really speaks to where we are in the metagame. What was that, Dewey?
I think if you're gonna play Burn, that's honestly the only way to go right
now.
Oh,
it probably is, because you can't beat a Murktide, man. Like, it's just a joke. And it would also randomly give you more of a chance against these combo decks, so who knows? Maybe it actually would be a good plan in Burn. I don't know. But yeah, it's probably just not the deck to play if we're being honest with ourselves. Who knows? Maybe you could like splash blue for iteration or something, but at that point, why aren't we just playing Delver?
Let's just start with Delver.
Let's just
play the deck, just keep it simple.
Full circle. I'm gonna splash iteration. Well, then I should be playing some bulk. Well, I guess I should be playing Ragavan at that point.
Yeah. Oh, I guess Darcy might be pretty good in this deck.
Darcy's good.
This card's pretty good. Murktide pays off all these burn spells I'm playing.
I guess I should try to make those more reliable.
Brainstorm, Ponder, those might go pretty well in my deck. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the legacy meta game right now is obviously, you have Delver as the #1 deck, and then it's every other deck seems to be, let's see if we can tackle against that in our own way, and then after that you have what? Doomsday, I think, is considered like the best combo deck against all the fair decks, but then it just dies to Delver, so it's like
exactly
weird spot to be in right now.
Yeah, Doomsday is like, well, as long as I dodge Delver, I'll probably beat everyone. And like that is mostly true. Like that deck's probably good against like all the creature decks. Mm-hmm. It's obviously it's gonna dunk on lands and like green white depths and all like the Merit Lage stuff.
Yeah.
And then you can hang with control, but your Doomsday matchup is bad, or your Delver matchup is bad with Doomsday rather. Sorry, I misspoke.
How's the DNT matchup with Doomsday? I can't imagine they're super good against like Thalia and the Prelate or something if they had that draw, or am I wrong?
I am not a Doomsday player,
okay.
But my understanding is that DNT is a buy.
Really? Okay, they think it's that good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like I said, I don't play Doomsday, but that's my perception.
Okay.
Outside. Yeah.
Interesting.
They're trying to get things set up and going, and you're just like, well, I know you can't really interact with me. I'm just going to go off. I don't have to do any setup. I can usually just have one protection spell, and then I'm good.
Or even zero. Like, I mean, all you have to do is like beat like game 1. You just have to beat like Athalia, and they'll play Dorian. So it's like you have to beat. Beating Athalia isn't even that hard. Like you just have a little bit of time. And then they have no clock, and like all their cards that mess with creatures don't do anything.
Okay.
You are like kind of vulnerable to Wasteland because like you like it's so funny because like you're literally like a mono blue deck that just splashes Dark Ritual and Doomsday.
Yeah.
And like like some Thoughtseize or whatever. But like you 2-cast Doomsday, you have like a pile of Underground Seas and people even play Watery Grave. Like DNT, maybe the buy is strong, but like
really I was gonna say I think Larry and I played against it once in a league and we beat it, which is why I was asking. Sure. I'm just curious, but who knows how good that player was? Yeah, that's the thing. The pilot ability is huge especially with combo decks. Because with a combo deck like that, it is all about being a really skilled pilot. And I know earlier we had Connor Mullally in here in chat. I'm not sure if he's still here, but he is a really good example of just he's a good Magic player in general, but he has a real skill for playing combo decks. And he's had a lot of success, especially like in Pioneer, with that Lotus Field deck. And he just like keeps finding ways to make that deck good again, even when it's supposed to suck. So, being a really good pilot with those combo decks is a massive deal. So I have no idea how good our opponent was. And all that.
At the end of the day, it's just one match.
And it's one match,
so the best Doomsday player in the world. Like,
right.
Can you really draw like?
No, you can't for sure. Yeah. But I was just curious. All right, Dewey, do you have any more questions relating to Legacy?
If I was going, I guess I would be playing some pile that takes on the deck. But I know if
Are you not going?
I'm not going this week. It's a long. I moved to the east side of Michigan, so it's only.
That's like a long haul.
It's a long haul for sure.
Yeah, if it was still in Grand Rapids, I probably would have gone because I had planned on going.
Yeah.
But I was like, I gotta take like a half day or a full day off from Friday and Monday to make it worthwhile on the travel. So I was like, I'm just gonna pass on this one.
Seems totally reasonable. And December travel too, so you're gonna travel through.
Yeah, we're gonna be going through some snow for sure.
Yeah.
We've been getting quite a bit up here actually, more than usual for this time of year.
Wow, I haven't gotten any snow here in Central Illinois.
Yeah, we've been getting a pretty good amount. I know northern Michigan's getting like hammered. They've had like multiple snow days already, and pretty crazy. But yeah, I'm just happy that I was able to. My little pep talk to Dan last week has clearly paid off because he's going this weekend with us. He's not skipping this event when there's a spot for the championship on the line. I told him I would be sick if he was on our team and then chose to just not go to an event and then miss by like a point or something.
There's like no way he misses.
I know. But it's mathematically possible, so just go to the event, dude. That's what I told him. It's very, obviously, he's probably locked anyway, and that's what he was saying. Yeah. But just come get your points, man. They're free. All you got to do is show up for at least a couple. Like, you could have horrible days, and you're still getting a couple points. So whatever, just come and take them, you know?
We're doing so well in them anyway. It's like, I miss it.
Yeah. He is the only one who can pass me for Player of the Year, so I'm excited to see if he can pull off the old dub. And I just die horribly in both events.
Sure.
Not super likely, but if he's there, at least I got a sweat, right?
Exactly. It'll be interesting, and that'll be fun for sure. I'm excited to come play some more. Energy. We were talking before this. Energy's been doing an awesome job. Yep. It's a really Max is awesome. They do a great job, and it's really we were talking about how we really liked the structure of their last team event. I hope they continue to do stuff like that in the future to play around with limited, because SCG doesn't usually do limited stuff, so it's nice to have a competitive scene for some limited events. I mean, we really need more of that, I think, other than obviously you can do it on Arena here or there too, but it's not it's different. But yeah, so it's going to be really fun to come out and play again. I had to miss that first weekend because of the whole COVID situation, but happy to be back at it and going again. But thanks a ton for joining us this week, Will. It was a lot of fun having you, man. We've hit the 45-minute mark here, so we'll kind of wrap it up. But thanks a lot, dude. You really gave us tons of good information on both formats and decks.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Oh, wait. Is this Will's first time on the cast?
Oh, you're right. We have to do the whole. Yeah. So if you were to have a Mount Rushmore for Magic, what 4 cards would you put on your Mount Rushmore? And they really, they can be for whatever reason you want. Power, you like the card, most iconic, whatever you want.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
We'd like to hear those 4 cards and the reason.
Okay. One of the first that comes to mind is Ad Nauseam. I was an Ad Nauseam gamer for a little while.
Okay.
I got into Magic on, so like I need a lot of games to be like good. Like I don't just have it naturally like some people do. It's just not me. And so Magic Online has obviously been a huge boon for me. And I got into MTGO not right before, but like, a year or so before like rental services took off. Mm-hmm. And, I was 17 or whatever, and I didn't have like $500 to just drop on one deck and then swap it around. And so Ad Nauseam was super cheap. And it was like a Pauper deck. And then I won a bunch with the Pauper deck. And then I got Ad Nauseam. So it was even less than that. And then, I go in this, like, my first 2 tournaments, I, 10-0 a Modern Challenge, and then I get, 9th in a PTQ, and I'm like, Ad Nauseam's great. And then I just had, a bankroll to keep playing Moto, and, Ad Nauseam was not actually great. It was mediocre, as it has always been. But I got very lucky, and, things lined up well. And it's like, Ad Nauseam's on there for sure. Probably Field of the Dead. I like the green-white Reclaimer deck, both the one that I won the energy with before COVID, and then later in the year with Elvish Reclaimer and Flagstones of Trocare. Like that deck was also really cool, and like Field of the Dead and Perennial Titan are kind of the overlap there. So I guess I'd pick Field. And I gotta say Saga, even though it's so new. I mean, Saga is just awesome. Like like the Hammer deck, and like Saga's just like so insane. So that's 3.
Yep.
Pick a 4th one, huh? All right. Give me a second here. I don't know. Maybe. I honestly can't even think of one. I'm totally drawing a blank. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, you're good, man.
Probably Lingering Souls. Okay, here's a good one. So when I was like, also once again, I was literally like brand new. I started playing Magic like that year. It was like 2015, or I started playing Magic the year before or whatever. I'm 15, 16 years old. I'm at SCG used to do 5Ks for their classics. They did the same structure, but the classics used to have like 5K in cash or whatever.
Yeah.
And there was a standard open in Milwaukee that year. I didn't play standard. My friends didn't play standard, but we all played modern because that was like what FNM was at our shop and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I would play like black-white tokens because I was just like, I don't know, that's what I had, you know? And then I randomly start 6-0 in this classic, and I'm like, this is sick. Like, and double draw in the top 8, and then I punt against Bill Silverman in the quarterfinals.
Okay.
We'll never forget that punt. It was really bad. It was like I just played heinously because I was new and I was a kid, and I just sucked. But like that like kind of hooked me on competitive Magic as a whole. So I guess there's like that one ad nauseum on actually trying to get good instead of just showing up to tournaments and hoping the cards fall your way. You know, I mean, I still do kind of do that, but I also try to put effort in the actual skill part.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so I guess those 4.
Okay, awesome. Sweet. It was an awesome Mount Rushmore. I can't say I'm surprised to hear that there were 2 lands on there from the man who's played so many sick lands decks.
Yeah.
But that's awesome, dude. Very, very cool. Well, thanks a ton for coming on. Again, it was really cool having you. And good luck this weekend. We'll see you this weekend.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah. Sounds good, man.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
You too, dude.